Welcome to Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. The third and final game of this weekend series between a couple of teams with October on their mind. The LA Dodgers and the St. Louis Cardinals. Corey Seager, Justin Turner have been hot. Yadier Molina's caught more innings than anybody else in baseball. So what else is new? And Matt Holliday's got 17 home runs already on the season. Here's what's happened in the series so far. They went deep into the night on Friday night. Jed Jerko tied it with a home run in the ninth. Matt Adams won it with a home run in the 16th. Cardinals beat the Dodgers 4-3. Last night, time for the Dodgers to swing the bats well. Justin Turner with a two-run double. Adrian Gonzalez with a home run, his 8th of the season. And the Dodgers defeat the Cardinals by a score of 7-2. So here's how it looks in terms of the standings for both of these teams. They're each in second place in their division. Giants lost today. Dodgers only 3.5 back. Cubs won today. And they're both right in the middle of it all when it comes to the wild card race in the National League. Hi, everybody, and welcome to steamy St. Louis. It's 100 degrees right now. Dan Shulman, Jessica Mendoza, and Aaron Boone. Let's start with the Dodgers. And they've had a ton of injuries this year. They've used the DL 22 times. But what they also have is one of the best young players in all of baseball in Corey Seager.
Well, Dan, and you think about the expectation, the hype on Corey Seager coming into this season, #1 prospect. I feel like he has taken his game to even another level, especially with his offensive production. And how he's done it is his ability to hit all pitches, all zones, all speeds. And if you think about his ability to hit inside fastball with his hand, staying inside the ball and driving that pitch, then try to throw him away. Look at the length he gets, not just to make contact, but power opposite field. Then his ability to recognize the breaking ball, slider low, get down and get it. Curveball at his ankles. This is a guy that's got a .600 slugging percentage on breaking balls. The fastball might have been expected and his success with that, but the fact that he's been able to do both is exactly why he's not one of the best, but probably the best rookie in the National League.
Yeah, certainly one of the front runners for the National League Rookie of the Year award. Now the Cardinals. They've had a good starting rotation. They've had some issues in the bullpen. They've had some issues defensively. But really, the strength of this team so far this year, Aaron, has been the offense.
It most certainly has. And think about this team that's been so good over the last several seasons. At times, they've struggled to produce consistent offense. And that has simply not been the case this year. And when they broke spring training, they felt like it was their deepest position player roster in some time, and they've averaged the second most runs per game. You want explosion? They've scored 8 or more runs 24 times, second in the National League, and they've spread that power around. 8 guys with 10+ home runs. You want a little clutch sprinkled in? Almost 300 with runners in scoring position. But Buster, the thing that's impressed me is how much power they've gotten from so many different places.
Yeah, Booney, what a change from last year. In 2015, the St. Louis Cardinals hit a total of 137 homers. That was 11th out of 15 teams in the National League. Well, tonight, they could actually match that total. In 2016, they have 135 homers. That is tied for first in the National League, and that's covered up some of the issues that Dan talked about with the injuries and the defense and the bullpen. Before the game, Cardinals manager Mike Matheny said coming into this year he thought his hitters were capable of more. Boy, was he right. Dan, back to you.
Buster, thank you. Interesting pitching matchup tonight. Remember, Clayton Kershaw's on the DL. Everybody's got to step it up in the Dodger rotation, and Scott Kazmir has been pitching well recently. For the Cardinals, because of a rainout, a doubleheader, and a 16-inning game, they've got to dip down to their minor league system. Mike Myers will make his major league debut here tonight. By Taco Bell's new limited edition triple double crunch wrap, and in part by Toyota, let's go places, and Liberty Mutual Insurance. Liberty stands with you. Welcome back to St. Louis for Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, where, as we mentioned, it's a steamy one. 100 degrees, and these kids about as smart as anybody around the ballpark right now, figuring out a way to stay cool. Wonder what's going through the mind of Mike Myers right now. Just found out yesterday morning he was going to be summoned to the big league to make his major league debut. They had a rainout Tuesday, a doubleheader against the Padres Wednesday, and then Tyler Lyons, who was going to make the start tonight, pitched 4 2/3 in relief in the 16-inning game Friday night. So as of yesterday morning, Mike Myers, who thought he was going to be starting in Memphis last night, instead is starting here in St. Louis tonight. And a lot of his family had driven from home in Ohio to Memphis to see the game. They got back in the car and drove here to St. Louis to watch his major league debut, including Mom Jane, Dad Mark, sister Marie, and you can imagine how excited they are as Myers, looks like Mayers, pronounced Myers, we are told, as he makes his way to the mound to make his major league debut against the LA Dodgers. He has split the season between AA and AAA, has made 9 starts at each stop. Good numbers at both stops. 2.30 ERA at AA, 2.94 ERA at AAA. 24 years of age, and originally a third-round pick back in 2013 out of Ole Miss. They are excited to watch Myers on the mound. Let's take a look at the lineup the Dodgers have tonight, presented by Taco Bell.
Took a look at that 3 spot. Justin Turner been hot the last few months, but he's really been slugging up the last 2 since June 7th. 15 home runs, 41 RBI. 5 of those 15 home runs have come in the last 8 games. And you go on down to Howie Kendrick. He's in the longest hitting streak in MLB right now, 15 games, batting .393, and hit a big home run Friday night against the Cardinals.
Dave Roberts' Dodgers are 14-8 since the last time Clayton Kershaw pitched for them. That was on June 26. Kershaw's out with a herniated disc. He pitched in a sim game a few days ago, did not come out of it feeling well. He is not currently doing any baseball activities, Roberts told us before the game, but they're hitting the ball better, and in Roberts' words, they're blocking out the noise of who they don't have and the trade deadline coming up. They're playing some pretty good baseball right now. When the Giants lost again today, that's 7 out of 8 losses now for the Giants. Mike Matheny in his 5th year as manager with the Cardinals. They've gone to the postseason in each of the first 4. And they're dealing with some injuries as well, not quite to the extent the Dodgers are. Dodgers have been more banged up than anybody, but they're without some key players like Matt Carpenter, Brandon Moss, Johnny Peralta right now. The Cubs won today, so they are 7 ahead of the Cardinals for the division lead in the National League Central. Myers on the mound on a 100-degree night and about to make his major league debut. Chase Utley will lead it off for the Dodgers. Nothing to it. 92 over the outside edge for a strike. That ball's going out of play.
And can't underestimate these first few pitches. If you can get yourself into a nice rhythm, it goes a long way in calming down what's got to be a very excitable moment for a first-time major leaguer.
Chase Utley hitting .262 on the season. He'll be followed by Corey Seager and then Justin Turner. As it's fouled back by Utley, the count is 1-2.
We're expecting to see fastball, slider, changeup from Myers. Fastball, we're told, anywhere usually in that 92 to 94 range. Will get up into the mid-90s at times.
Corey Seager waiting on deck. Myers was not in spring training at all with the Cardinals this year with the big club. He was in spring training briefly with them last year. Mike Matheny remembers him. They're both from Ohio, so that their hometowns are near each other, so he's always kind of taken a bit of a special interest in Myers. But they had a need. This is the first time that anybody other than the usual 5 for the Cardinals has started a game this year. And Utley reaches out, just pokes it into center field for a base hit. The Cardinals becoming the last team in baseball to need another starter. Some teams have had as many as 12 or 13 starting pitchers this year. Myers becomes the 6th. Was Adam Wainwright fronting the rotation, pitching much better of late. Carlos Martinez having a great season.
And I think Wainwright and the way he started the pitch the last couple of months, I think makes the Cardinals a very dangerous team if they do get into the dance all of a sudden, because that rotation looks like it's starting to get a little healthier and a little more dominant at the top.
Here's Corey Seager. Although he's got a fair bit more experience at the major league level than Myers, is actually 2 years younger. Myers is 24, Seager is 22. And as Jess told you off the top of the show, he is having a great year and certainly is in the conversation for National League Rookie of the Year. We'll get into that a little bit more in detail later on. Cardinals have a very good candidate as well in their shortstop, Aledmus Diaz, who's having an outstanding season. There's a guy out in Colorado who just won't stop hitting home runs. He's on a tear like he was back at the beginning of the season. Trevor Story hit 2 yesterday, hit another one today. He leads the National League in home runs with 27. So you've got 3 very talented shortstops, all rookies. Fouled off, 2-2.
That's the first off-speed pitch we've seen for a strike from Myers. Even though it was just off the plate, down and in, he did get the chase on it. He struggled with that against Utley. We saw him locate his fastball okay, but wants to be able to at least locate one of those secondary pitches to keep these Dodgers off from just selling out and jumping all over his fastball.
That is a fair ball right over the bag, and it'll go for a base hit for Seager.
Seager actually gets beat on this pitch. Up and in fastball, about 95 miles per hour on the hands, but the location of it, it couldn't be more perfect. Just goes right over the bag. Fair. Get the base hit.
That's his 6th hit in the series. He had 4 hits in 7 at-bats in the 16-inning game on Friday night. Had a base hit last night and a base hit in his first trip tonight. And Myers in a jam early, 1st and 2nd, nobody out for Justin Turner, who's about as hot a hitter as there is in baseball. Turner coming off season microfracture knee surgery. Only had 3 home runs at the end of May. He's got 18 now. And a strike, 1-1.
The biggest key for Turner and switching those numbers around or hiking him up, Dan, was just the fact of him getting that barrel out. You can even see the way he gets in the batter's box, turns that back foot. And his timing, that was probably the biggest thing. A lot of pop flies to right field. And Dave Roberts told us pregame his ability to slug the ball more is just getting the ball in the air to left field. Something that sounds very simple, but it comes down to that timing, and he's got himself in a good body position with that back foot to get the barrel head out.
Fouls it off, 1-2. Well, if you wonder what the Dodgers might know about a guy they've never seen before in Mike Myers, here's Justin Turner on the laptop in the clubhouse before the game, checking out video of a minor league start that Myers made this year.
You know, it's so rare now that you don't have an extensive scouting report, that you've seen so much video on guys you're expected to face, but this came about real quick. So a little old school crash session for Justin Turner and the Dodgers, trying to get as much info as they can off of Mike Myers.
June the 7th, the day really when things got going for Turner. Leads the National League in home runs and RBI since then. He's driven in 14 runs in 8 games since the All-Star break. In on his hands, popped up down the line, dropping, foul.
Well, I'd say the one good thing from Myers so far is he has shown with his fastball that he can pitch to both sides of the plate. We saw him intentionally go in and hit his spot with Seager. Seager fortunate to roll a hit off him. For the most part going away here to Justin Turner, but they're running that fastball in on the hands and beating him in there. The Dodgers almost dumped another soft hit out there. Fortunately for the Cardinals, that sliced foul.
Well, you think about it, he beat both Utley and Seager. I mean, Utley just threw his hands, hit a base up the middle, and Seager got jammed. I mean, totally beat on an inside pitch, and he just poked it, perfect placement right over the bag. You saw Myers' dad when they showed a shot of the stands after that pop fly landed foul, of him just saying, finally.
It's a great example right here of Yadi going out, and Colton Wong you saw run from second base. You got a veteran in Chase Utley at second base, a veteran in Justin Turner. Hey, he's got a long look out there. Hey, maybe we switch up the signs right now in a crucial spot.
Think Myers shakes off Molina at all tonight? Or does he?
I think he understands who he's looking at.
Here's what you're throwing, kid. As accomplished a catcher, of course, as there is in baseball. First and second, nobody out, and the count is full. Utley and Seager aboard. They are not running, and Turner will walk, and that's going to load him up with nobody out. As a nervous Myers family looks on. So a chance for the Dodgers to do some damage here in the first inning. The batter is Adrian Gonzalez, who homered last night. When we were talking to Dave Roberts about Justin Turner and what's helped him turn around, and he said it sounds simple, but pull the ball, get it in the air, and then he said that's actually something we're talking to Adrian about.
Pull the ball in the air. It's something you don't hear a lot. You always hear people, oh, he wants to hit it the other way. But when you're pulling the ball in the air, you've got to do a lot of things right. Pulling the ball on the ground is death. You don't want to do that because you're probably doing a lot of things wrong. But to pull the ball with authority in the air, it means you're on time, but it also means your bat path through the zone is probably correct and very strong. And that's what Justin Turner's done so well the last few months.
You saw the home run last night for Gonzalez to straightaway center field. He's been dealing at times this year with some neck and back issues, but the numbers are a little bit down, especially in the power and production departments for Gonzalez, who's been one of the most consistent hitters in baseball in recent years. Bases loaded, nobody out here in the first inning. And it's taken a low, ball two. The pitch count climbing for Myers on this steamy night. Temperature now in the high 90s. He's thrown 20 pitches and still looking for his first big league out. A little bad luck on the Seager base hit. Little squibber up the third baseline that went right over the bag. Utley singled to begin the game, and Turner walked to load the bases. On the appeal, he went, says Ramon De Jesus down at third, and the count now 2-2.
Well, this could be a huge break for Myers if it turns out Gonzalez did not offer. Let's take a look. Yeah, I think you can make the case those wrists broke, and certainly close, but I think De Jesus got that one right.
His sister looking on. You can see how nervous she is. Gonzalez drives one high and deep, straightaway center field. It is a grand slam. Fifth career grand slam for Adrian Gonzalez. Second home run in as many nights. And four batters in, it's 4-0 Dodgers.
Adrian Gonzalez, Booney, you were talking about it, him just getting to the point where his swing path, whether he's pulling a ball in the air, whether he's driving it to dead center field, and he takes this off-speed pitch, but watch the bat path. Watch his ability to take a pitch that's moving away from his barrel, and he's able to get it down into a slot position that drives the ball, gets his barrel head out, and whether it's right field, center field, he's driving the ball for more power, and we've seen that the last 2 weeks from Adrian Gonzalez.
And now a base hit into center field off the bat of Howie Kendrick. He's thinking two and is safe at second, avoiding the tag of Colton Wong.
Well, Howie Kendrick, another one of those Dodgers that comes in swinging the bat extremely well, jumps on first pitch and rockets this. And as soon as he sees Tommy Pham have to run for this ball, that's enough for him to say, I'm pushing the envelope, I'm going to be aggressive, and he turns in a great slide and looks like he does get around the tag of Kolten Wong, as that throw into second certainly beat him.
And that hit will extend Kendrick's hitting streak to 16 games. The Cardinals are deciding whether or not they want to have a look at that one.
And that's such a veteran player. I mean, Kendrick out of the box was watching Pham the entire time, thinking second base. And you think about so many times out of the batter's box, trying to go hard. Not only does he go hard, but he recognizes where the ball's thrown. And this dive, how he changes direction to try to get around the glove of Kolten Wong.
And Mike Matheny looks like he's decided not to review it, but he's gone out to the mound to have a talk with Mike Myers, the young man making his major league debut. A tough spot for Myers. 5 batters in, he hasn't gotten an out yet. Nobody up in the pen. They need innings, and probably just trying to settle him down and build up his confidence a little bit. Take some deep breaths, gather yourself. Get back to it. Remember the 16-inning game on Friday. That's one of the reasons why they need Myers up here. This is a difficult spot. A young man who's never pitched in the majors before is being asked to stay out there and just give it his best for as long as he can. Here's Yasmani Grandal, the catcher, hitting .212, 13 home runs on the season, and thinking about trying to bunt his way aboard. He bunts right through it. So Utley singles, Seager with an infield hit, Turner walked on a full count pitch, and then Adrian Gonzalez with a grand slam to deep right center. Howie Kendrick doubling to left center with the first pitch he saw, and now Grandal. Home run number 9 for Gonzalez is a big one. Give him 51 RBIs now on the season.
The problem for Myers right now too is that this, for the most part, a veteran offense, a hot offense for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and he hasn't. The Dodger hitters are decided that his secondary pitches, that slider he flipped in with 2 strikes to Gonzalez, is not something they fear at all. All of his off-speed pitches have either been balls or pitches elevated in the zone, so they can go up there selling out on fastball, which I guarantee Gonzalez may have been doing. But then that slider, it's just not something that they fear yet at this point.
Well, and another issue is, even if it were going well, it's almost 100 degrees right now, and he's thrown 28 pitches and still doesn't have an out. Forget the situation, just the physical demands of throwing as many pitches in this kind of weather has to be taking its toll on him as well. And that ball held on to by Molina, so Grandal strikes out as Myers records his first out in the big leagues.
Well, another pretty well located fastball from Myers. He's shown a little bit of a knack for going both sides. Again, Yadi wants that fastball in on the hands. He gets it to that corner. Grandal tips it, but a good job by Molina of being able to hold on to record that first out of Myers' big league career.
Now Andrew Toles, who is the starting right fielder for the Dodgers tonight. He's been playing recently, got called up a couple of weeks ago, and he's been playing well. He is 9 for 23. He can hit the fastball, says Dave Roberts, and he can also run. Gives them a bit of a different look when he gets on. Began his career in the Tampa Bay organization. Of course, Andrew Friedman, who runs the Dodgers, used to run the Rays. As Toles grounds out for the second out, Kendrick will come to third. More on Toles a little bit later on, but now Myers looking for one more out to get out of this inning. The 8th hitter of the inning for the Dodgers will be center fielder Jock Peterson. hitting .230, 13 home runs on the season. It's very early in this one, a long way to go, but if the Dodgers can win it, they'll be just 3 games back of the San Francisco Giants. The Giants, maybe all those injuries they've got, still waiting for some regulars to come back, maybe taking their toll. Starting pitching hasn't been as good recently either, but the Giants have lost 7 out of 8. They were beaten today by the Yankees, who took 2 out of 3 in that series.
And right here, I'm sure it crossed Matheny and their coaching staff's mind to consider putting Joc Pederson on here with an open base and the pitcher on deck. But I think you want to have him try to attack and at least then have the possibility of the pitcher leading off next inning and maybe getting another inning out of Myers. But if this gets into too much of a hitter's count, another ball here, if you go to 3-1 at that point, you'd probably see Yadier Molina stand up and put Pederson on.
The 2-1. Inside, says home plate umpire Greg Gibson, to ball 3.
Well, nothing here, but I wouldn't expect them to give in with anything. Maybe another fastball in or off-speed pitch.
Throw the changeup at 3-1. Found the strike zone. The count is full.
I think watch him try to go back in with that fastball. You got a strike called a little off the plate for the first strike. 2 balls thereafter. But if you're going to get Pederson, especially after that off-speed.
But Pederson had something in his eye and asked for time. Kendrick way down the line at third as Pederson will draw the walk. That'll extend the inning and bring the pitcher Scott Kazmir to the plate. And they're on the phone to the bullpen. Cardinals are not off tomorrow. They start a series with the Mets tomorrow night. And again, they'd love to get as much distance out of Myers as they can tonight. But Seth Maness is up. Generally a guy, of course, who pitches much later in games. 6th, 7th inning. Guy who gets a lot of ground balls. And a guy who will often come in the middle of an inning to kind of put out a fire.
And if you're the Cardinals right now, you're in obviously the 16-inning game is the reason Myers is up here pitching. But you're in a stretch of games where you've got 30 games in 31 days. So, and especially when you consider the heat and stuff, this is a bit of a dicey spot for St. Louis as they try and kind of manage and work through this game without setting themselves back for days going forward.
Joc Pederson stealing second without a throw on that last pitch. The count 1-1 on Kazmir, hitting .097, 3 for 31. Ground ball up the middle will get through into center field. 1 run is home, and Pederson will score as well. A 2-run single for Kazmir makes it 6-0 Dodgers.
Well, just a good job by Kazmir here of working the ball back through the middle. The ball gets in on his hands just a little bit as they want to go back in with the fastball. It leaks over the heart of the plate, and Kazmir doesn't sting it real hard, but perfectly located back through the middle. No chance for Diaz, and a 2-out hit, another couple runs for the Dodgers.
So Chase Utley will come up for the second time. He got it started with a base hit off Myers. Chases that slider in under his hands, and the count is 0-1. 6 runs on 5 hits. There have been a couple of walks as well. Maness continues to throw in the bullpen. This young man has now thrown 42 pitches in this inning, and you can see the damage done. The biggest damage done by Adrian Gonzalez, the grand slam after a couple of hits and a walkout. It started.
You desperately want to at least get him through this inning, but if he doesn't retire Utley here, I think that's probably it.
On the corner, 1-2.
I think Utley's sitting in this at bat. He got his base hit this inning on a fastball away. I think that's why he was a sucker for the slider. First pitch.
Utley waiting patiently. The count, 2 balls, 2 strikes. And a ground ball to second will end the inning, but it's a big one for the Dodgers. Myers finally gets out of it, but the Dodgers score 6 runs in the top of the first. To climb for the Cardinals, down 6 runs before they come up tonight. Let's check out the starting lineup for St. Louis tonight, presented by Taco Bell.
Well, we talked about Aledmys Diaz, and that's 2-hole, one of the Rookie of the Year candidates. Certainly, he has been outstanding since taking over the everyday, leading all National League rookies with a .318 average. And Jedd Gyorko filling in for Matt Carpenter, who's on the disabled list. He has caught fire, and that power that he's shown throughout his young career has been on display as he's found a hot streak, 5 homers in the last 6 ball games.
Well, as we mentioned, with Clayton Kershaw out and they don't know when he might be back, everybody else has to step up, and Scott Kazmir has been stepping up. He has pitched well in his last 12 starts. His last one against Washington particularly good, 7 strong innings, has given up just 1 run. A guy who came up with a 99-mile-an-hour fastball when he debuted as a 20-year-old way back when as a member of Tampa Bay, but he's a much different pitcher now than he used to be and features a very good changeup that he uses a lot. He's in the first year of a 3-year, $48 million deal with the Dodgers, and he had a very good outing against St. Louis back in May. 8 2/3, gave up 3 runs, 2 earned. Got the win. That's the deepest into a game that he's pitched this year. He's only gotten an out in the 7th inning twice this season. The 8 2/3 against the Cardinals back in May, and then 7 innings against the Nationals his last time out. Randal Grichuk will lead it off tonight for St. Louis. Aaron mentioned Jedd Gyorko filling in at third base for the injured Matt Carpenter. A number of different guys have filled in as the leadoff hitter. It's kind of a day-by-day situation. It can be Colton Wong, it can be Tommy Pham, it can be Jedd Gyorko, and tonight it's Randal Grichuk. Boy, but the Cardinals love to get this guy back. One of the more valuable players in the National League.
And the reports we're getting on him are good. Coming back from that oblique injury, they feel like it's going to be within the next week, perhaps.
They're missing him, Brandon Moss, and Johnny Peralta. The good news is they expect all of them back within the next couple of weeks if there are no setbacks. And once they get all of them back, you want to talk about a team with depth and versatility.
And that's why I think with Wainwright starting to throw the way he has over the last month or two, and the versatility and the depth of their position players, I think they become a very dangerous team late in the season.
And as much as you don't want injuries, it's the fact that they have depth, but now they have depth with experience. So Dan, as you mentioned, when they get their starters back, there's so much confidence in the guys behind them, but because they've had 2, 3, 4 weeks of experience and successful experience.
There's the changeup and a fly ball hit to left field. Howie Kendrick is there to haul it in, one down. Well, it seems like every year the Cardinals deal with injuries, and as we mentioned, nobody's dealt with more than the Dodgers this year, and we'll talk about that a lot over the course of the evening. But the Cardinals are without 3 significant players, forcing other guys from part-time roles into full-time roles. It seems like this kind of thing happens every year for St. Louis. But we talked about it last night. I feel they do next man up as well as any team in baseball. They don't worry about what they don't have. They worry about what they do have.
Well, I think they're doing it better than even they've done it in past years, with the emergence of Aledmys Diaz kind of taking over the everyday shortstop role. And just so much depth on that bench. It's manifested itself as they've had a great pinch hitting success because their bench throughout the year has been so deep. You look at Matt Adams and Greg Garcia and Waka and Hazel Baker, who got off to such a strong start at the beginning of the year.
One and one the count on Diaz, 5th in the National League in batting at .318. He's reached base in 26 consecutive games. And Mike Matheny saying the defense has gotten better. It was a real concern in the opening weeks of the season, but it has improved. And because of the bat, they can't take him out of the lineup. And when Peralta's healthy, he's playing third base. Diaz is standing short.
He's got great hands. I mean, when you watch him hit, you see the amount of hits that he'll even get. Pitches out of the zone. He might lose his lower half, but his ability to recognize and still use his hands to get himself hits.
There's the changeup, swing and a miss, 2-2.
And Dan, look at the mile per hour in that changeup, 76 miles per hour. So you're thinking that Kazmir is going to top out 92, 93 with his fastball. So you're talking 14 to 15 miles per hour difference, and it's all because of how he grips it. He's probably the most in Major League Baseball right now with that difference between his fastball and changeup, and it's because of the way he grips the ball.
Yeah, the numbers say, as you said, about 15 miles an hour difference. The next greatest difference for any pitcher is Marco Estrada of the Blue Jays, who's 11 miles an hour different on average between his fastball and his changeup.
But what's great about it is, and the key for Kazmir is the arm speed, and that he doesn't slow his body down. And if you watch his last several starts, that's what really jumps out to me, is how good his arm action and the speed of his body and arm is on that pitch. And I think it's been a big reason why he's gotten on a really good roll now for the Dodgers at a time with Clayton Kershaw obviously on the shelf that they desperately need guys in their rotation to step up.
And Booney, how he does it is because his grip is so deep in his palm. He's allowing his body to go still max force and not be able to slow down his arm. Look at where he's gripping the ball deeper in his palm. He's got his 4 fingertips all on a seam, and that allows him to be explosive through it. And you take a look right there. The 4 fingers is key, each one on a seam, so it allows him to have a better grip, and you see how deep it is into his hand, which is what gives it. I mean, think about it. Just pick up a baseball and put it deep in your hand and just go out and play catch, and you'll see just you're not able to get any velocity on it. So that's what naturally takes away from Dan what's normally an average 8 to 9 mile an hour difference, and now it's 14 to 15, the most in baseball because of how he grips it.
And in the first half of his career, it was a very average pitch for him. It was more high velocity fastball, slider. But now as he's come back and kind of remade his career, that changeup and that grip has gone a long way in offsetting righties.
Diaz continues to foul off pitches. The next pitch you'll see will be the 9th in the at-bat. We mentioned Kazmir broke in with Tampa Bay. He was actually drafted originally by the Mets, traded to the then Devil Rays back in 2004. Has also been with the Angels, the Indians, the A's, the Astros, and now the Dodgers. In 2012, pitched in an independent league as Diaz pops one up on a changeup. Easy play for Turner. Kazmir had lost so much velocity he couldn't even get anybody out in the minor leagues, and wound up spending a year really out of so-called mainstream professional baseball, pitching in an independent league before figuring out a way mechanically to get that velocity back and starting his comeback, if you will, with the Indians in 2013.
Well, and Dan, because he had so much success early in his career, he said, you know, I didn't really know what I was doing. I just throw the ball. Because he went through that failure, and you hear this a lot, he was able to kind of feel his body and understand it. And one of the biggest things he felt was that he wasn't in his back leg. And that's something he'll still go to now. And it was his ability to get on a steeper mount, so something that was about 1.5 feet steeper than what he's normally on, so that he could really feel his mechanics. And now he says, I can instantly know when something's wrong, whereas before I had no idea. And that's why you saw the numbers go out of control earlier in my career.
We were talking to A.J. Ellis before the game, the Dodger catcher. He's not catching tonight, but he's caught Kazmir. He's faced Kazmir. He said, I remember facing him when he was a rookie, when he was like 19 years old in the minors. He said, I hit a fly ball to right field off him and thought it would be my career highlight because he was throwing 99 miles an hour back then as a young kid. Ellis also talked about, and this is a key for any pitcher who throws a changeup, that the arm speed is the same. You just can't see the difference between the fastball and the changeup in terms of arm speed.
And that's what, when I watch him pitch this last month, when I watch his outings, that's what jumps out. It is the arm speed. I can't tell it's a changeup till it's halfway there on the screen because the body and the arm string speed are so good.
Get them while they're young. Early Card fans.
Dress them in red, bring them to the ballpark. 2-2 the count on Stephen Piscotty, hitting .293 on the season for St. Louis. Kazmir's getting outs, but he's having to work pretty hard for it. All these foul balls. Diaz fouled off a bunch. Now Piscotty battling.
And if you watch Kazmir tonight, he's very comfortable to his arm side. So away to these right-handed hitters, throwing that fastball. That's where he's most comfortable commanding the ball. And then he works the changeup off of that. When you see him come inside, it's typically with a cut fastball.
Utley's got it, but no chance to throw, and Piscotty aboard with an infield hit.
And all three batters now have ultimately put the changeup in play, and all three hitters have been out in front. This time, though, Piscotty keeps that bat in the zone long enough and just places it well enough because he keeps that bat in the hitting zone so long. A strength of Piscotty's, he's able to get a soft hit.
So here's Matt Holliday. Mike Matheny making a change several days ago. Piscotty moving to the 3 spot, Holliday dropping down to the cleanup spot. Piscotty hit third on an off day for Holliday and had a big game, and Mike Matheny said, you know what, let's mix it up a little bit. Let's try something different. Although again, they've had a very good year offensively, and Holliday hitting cleanup the last several days for the first time since 2013. He's been almost exclusively a 3-hitter for the Cardinals in recent years. But this guy's got the look of a 3-hitter for a lot of years to come, Stephen Piscotty.
Definitely a changing of the guard, if you will, and just trying to maximize their best hitters. And Stephen Piscotty is certainly one of those guys now on this club.
Holliday rips a ball to left field. Kendrick jumps, and it's over his head. Piscotty getting the wave around third. Relay to the plate is cut, and the run will score.
And this ball is just misread off the bat for Howie Kendrick. So you take a look at Matt Holliday driving this pitch hard. This is a catchable ball by far. As Holliday gets his barrel out. Drives this to left field. And watch Kendrick kind of stumble going back, but he never was sure. You go back, once you notice that ball's over your head, you turn into a sprinting position with just your head over your shoulder, and he was almost sidestepping and then jumped at the last minute. And even just before that play, or just before we saw it, you could tell he just didn't have a good read off the bat.
Of course, the guy who's been an infielder for almost his entire career, playing a lot of left field this year for the Dodgers, but still getting comfortable out in the outfield. Here's Jedd Gyorko.
You know, it's almost like he knew he misread it. I think he still had time to actually go into a run, and he probably think, all right, I'm already beat. I've just got to try to side saddle and jump and catch this. Certainly a misread on a well-hit ball.
RBI double for Holliday, 6-1 in the bottom of the first. Gyorko hitting .262, 12 home runs. And 5 home runs in his last 6 games. He was on a tear when his old team, the San Diego Padres, came to town this week. Went 8 for 14 in a 4-game series against the Padres. Was acquired in an offseason deal for Jon Jay. And if you're a Cardinal this year, you're hitting for power. Only Colorado has hit more home runs than the Cardinals, and Colorado hit 3 today to move 2 ahead of the Cardinals for the National League lead in home runs. And really danger up and down the lineup. They've got 8 different players in double figures already in home runs. That's the most in baseball. Change up and a ground ball to short. Seager ends the inning. The Cardinals get 1 back on the double by Holliday. They still trail 6-1 at the end of an inning. The Dodgers with a 6-run top of the first lead the Cardinals 6-1. Mike Myers is back on the mound in his major league debut, facing Corey Seager, who had an infield hit off him in the first inning. Seager came into the game hitting almost .370 in his last 28 games. Boy, he's got a pretty swing.
Such a pretty swing, and I watch him and Stephen Piscotty, and feel like generationally, I mean, they're within a couple years of each other. You could tell they were just taught similar ways to hit the ball. And a big part of it's their build too, 6'3", 6'4". They know how to use those levers. But they also just have a quietness in a day of high leg kicks, a lot of hand movement. They're very quiet with both their strides, their hands, and the way they go about hitting. And it's both probably two of the best swings in baseball when you just break it down.
And two guys just getting started. Younger brother of Kyle, third baseman for the Seattle Mariners, having a very good season. There's another brother, Justin, who's the middle of the three. Corey's the youngest, Kyle's the oldest. Justin is an infielder in the Mariners organization at Double-A. Myers just can't get a swing and a miss. A lot of foul balls.
Well, away here. He's shown at least he's thrown an off-speed pitch in there for a strike. At some point, I think he can bust him in again, try and tie him up. He's just sitting out there. He's got everything covered out there. He's just waiting for a mistake-breaking ball or a fastball that hangs over the middle, and that's where he's going to do his damage. At some point, you go back in here.
That's what Molina wants. Fastball in. Pulled foul.
Get a look at Seager and his ability. You saw this with Diaz on the flip side. I know these guys are both head-to-head rookie of the year, but their ability to take pitchers deep in counts because they can hit all zones, all speeds, or at least make contact and waste it.
And on the 10th pitch of the at-bat, the ground ball to Wong out at second, one down.
I was talking about the similarities between Seager and Piscotty. Take a look at their front foot. And again, when you see a lot of high leg kicks, watch how quiet they are with that front side. Then look at their ability to be able to get their hands into a perfect leverage position off of that front side. So as those hips trigger, super quiet with their hands and both their front sides. A nice explosive through the ball and kind of open up that front hip after they finish. So you never want to really open it up too much before you make contact, but after contact, both of them very similar in their ability to kind of drive through the ball. Almost mirror images of each other in a lot of ways.
Nice job with the arrows.
Pretty quick.
Come a long way.
Hey, anytime I can draw, I mean, you should see my stick figures.
A ball and a strike on Justin Turner. Walked and scored on the Gonzalez grand slam in the first inning. Gonzalez now with the home runs in consecutive games. Dodgers at the end of a road trip heading home to take on the Rays and the Diamondbacks this week at Dodger Stadium as Turner just guides it out into left field for a base hit. Here's what's coming your way on the MLB calendar this week. A lot of games on ESPN. Tomorrow night it'll be the Tigers or the Red Sox. Then you'll see the Cubs and the White Sox twice as they go home and home. Tuesday night on the south side, Wednesday night on the north side, and then we'll be on the north side of Chicago as well 1 week from tonight as the Seattle Mariners provide the opposition for the Cubs.
It'll be cool to see Kyle Seager, big brother of Corey. They're in a little home run battle, 19-17.
Gonzalez rolls one through the right side, a base hit. Turner around second on his way to third. Piscotty's throw will bounce into the dugout as it gets past Jerko. And that will allow Turner to score and allow Gonzalez to go all the way to third. 7-1 Dodgers.
Well, this is just a bit of a mistake by Jerko. He wants so desperately to try and steal this out almost that he tries to just time it perfectly and go up and catch the ball as the runner's coming in. But he ends up getting blocked out of the way by Turner, who's coming in sliding. He would have been better off just giving ground and making sure he secured that ball and keeping that first and third in order.
The error charged to Piscotty on the throw. St. Louis has committed more errors than any team in baseball this year, and that's certainly not something you associate with the Cardinals, but it has been a very difficult year for them defensively, both in terms of physical errors, mental mistakes as well. That is the 74th error committed by the Cardinals on the season. To compare it to say the Dodgers, they've committed 43. Here's a fly ball well hit to right field off the bat of Kendrick. It is gone. An opposite field 2-run home run for Howie Kendrick, and it is now 9-1.
Dan, Howie has been hot. 16 consecutive game with a hit. He had a double his first at bat, and you know that Howie is going well when he is going opposite field. And that's his swing at its best because he stays inside the ball. This one he takes a fastball. Look at the location up in the zone. But his swing, his ability to take his hands first, staying inside, and watch him get the barrel to where this fastball is to drive it. The power that he has for his size to be able to go opposite way is why he's had so much success, especially on this streak where he's hitting about 400.
So a tough night, to say the least, for Mike Myers in his major league debut. It is 9-1 Dodgers as he makes his way to the bullpen. The Cardinals going to the pen. Major league debut, surrenders 9 runs, all earned. He gives up a couple of homers in just an inning and a third. Adrian Gonzalez with a grand slam. Howie Kendrick with a 2-run shot here to knock Myers out of the game in the second inning. 9-1. They lead the Cardinals as Seth Maness is now in from the bullpen.
Maness, you know you're going to get the sinker. Typically in the upper 80s with that sinking fastball change, which we just see right there. Occasional slider. Been a valuable member of this pen for the last couple of seasons. Been a bit of a struggle for him this year, but now on to try and get into the middle innings, try and save some pen.
The Cardinals had to send down a reliever, Miguel Sokolovic, to make room for Myers for this game. No doubt they'll return Myers to the minors and call up another reliever to meet them in New York tomorrow night when they open up a series with the Mets, which, by the way, pits Carlos Martinez against Noah Syndergaard in the first game of that 3-game series, between a couple of playoff hopefuls. Bullpen has been worked hard. A 16-inning game on Friday night. And the Dodgers, well, first of all, they're winning this game, and they can say, hey, we've got off days Monday and Thursday. The Cardinals don't have an off day this week. That's why you see more and more teams going to an 8-man bullpen at times, carrying 13 pitchers if they have to. 2-2, the count on Yasmani Grandal. A lot of these guys are going to be forced into action tonight, you would figure, for the Cardinals, with a lot of outs to get. This one is deep to left, and running it down is Grichuk for out number 2. Grichuk over to left field tonight with Tommy Pham getting the start in center field for St. Louis. Two down in the inning, and here's Tolles. Grounded out his first time up. Yasiel Puig has another hamstring problem. Now, this one is not the same leg where he had the problem when he went on the DL earlier in the season. This is the right leg. Suffered the injury a couple of days ago. He just can't seem to keep those hamstrings healthy, and he is, Dave Roberts told us before the game, available in an emergency tonight. At this early juncture of the game, it does not appear they will have an emergency. Said he probably can't leave him in to run. He probably can't use him in the field, but if he needed him to hit, he would. Does not think a DL stint is likely, but with Puig out again, a guy like Tolles getting a chance to play. Been a disappointing year for Puig.
Yeah, and these next few days, though, for Puig will be important, because then you get into that kind of no man's land where you can backdate that DL stint. So if he's not right probably within the next 2, 3, 4 days, then it probably does become a DL situation.
You know, and every team wants to have as much certainty as they can, about as much as they can heading into the trade deadline. Maybe no team more so than the Dodgers, with the status of Clayton Kershaw, who was on the DL with a back injury. Will they get him back? If they do, when would they get him back? Ground ball to the right side, and Tolles is retired to end the inning. Well, the trade winds starting to blow. You know what that means. Buster time when we come back. Trade deadline around the corner. Here are Buster Olney's top 5 players he thinks likely to get traded in the coming days. Aroldis Chapman of the Yankees, Carlos Beltran of the Yankees, Jay Bruce, who hit a home run today, is 21st, Jonathan Lucroy of Milwaukee, and then yet another Yankee, Andrew Miller, is on the list. The Yankees won today. They went 6-4 on that pivotal 10-game homestand. Are they in? Are they out? Time will tell. Let's go down to Buster, because Buster, there may be some news about Aroldis Chapman. What's the latest that you're hearing?
Well, guys, they are deep into talks with the Chicago Cubs for a deal built around 19-year-old prospect Gleyber Torres, who is a shortstop Class A Myrtle Beach. He's considered to be a great athlete, a guy who could play second base, he could play third base. He would be the centerpiece of this deal if, in fact, it goes through. There would also be at least a secondary piece in that deal as well. And if the Yankees trade Chapman, they also are expected to continue fielding offers on another reliever, Andrew Miller. He is someone who is probably going to be more expensive than Chapman because Chapman is a free agent at the end of this year. On the other hand, Miller has an affordable 2 years left on his contract. And you would assume that some of the teams, perhaps the Cleveland Indians, if they miss out on Chapman, and the Yankees have been talking with the Indians, the Nationals, the Giants, the Texas Rangers, could move on to Miller if, in fact, the Cubs are the team that finished this deal for Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah, you figure a lot of teams are looking for help in the bullpen, and the Yankees certainly with a couple of huge chips to play if they decide that they are going to be sellers. We were talking before the game. I think it's interesting, heading into the 10-game homestand, a lot of people said, well, the Yankees need to win X number of games to consider themselves in it. If they don't, then they're probably out of it. They go to Houston for a 3-game series starting tomorrow. Aaron, we were talking before the game. Right now, as you look at the Yankee situation, which side of the fence do you think they might be on?
I think they're on the sell side of the fence, and I think they're fully intending to do that. But if they continue to play well and say go to Houston and sweep the Astros, a very hot and a very good team right now, man, then all of a sudden maybe you start to reconsider things, especially the run they're going on. But I believe the baseball operations people with the Yankees don't believe this is a deep playoff team and believe that they need to sell.
And there you can see the Yankees situation, same as Seattle, 4.5 out of the second wild card spot, beginning to be a little bit of separation in the American League with the Boston, Toronto, and Houston having a few games up on the likes of Detroit, the Yankees, and Seattle, the next 3 teams on the list. Molina hits the ball well, deep right center field. Toles racing back over his head and off the wall. And Molina around second now as the ball is just picked up, but he'll put the brakes on and head back, smiling and settling for a long leadoff double. Crowd applauding. They wanted to see him go for 3.
Well, as you might expect, the ball is really carrying well at this point of the season here in St. Louis. Almost 100 degrees today, and we've seen a few balls. Howie Kendrick rode that ball deep out to right, no problem. This ball looks like Toles feels like he has a bead on it, but it just keeps carrying, and as soon as he has that little bit of bobble, Molina thinks about going to third, but then he's like, you know what? Down 8-1, 9-1, leading off the inning here. No need to push it, even though he probably would have been safe with ease.
Actually had a couple of triples last year, 5 in his career, but he'll settle for the double here to begin the second. Tommy Pham, the center fielder, is up. Buster, let's get back to the trade talk. And if the Yankees trade Chapman, you got to believe they're also for sure going to trade Beltran. They can hold Miller if they want because he signed for 2 more years, but Beltran's also a free agent at the end of the season. He's having a great year. Who do you hear is looking at Carlos Beltran and talking trade with the Yankees about him?
Well, and that might be a situation where it's going to take some time for itself for it to flush itself out, because there was a time when the Kansas City Royals looked like they could be a fit. The Cleveland Indians could be a fit. They, of course, been waiting to see exactly the health condition of Michael Brantley as he comes back from shoulder surgery. So those are 2 possible options. The fact that Beltran at this stage in his career is not a great outfielder is probably going to be a factor in whether they get anything in return for him. But you're exactly right. Beltran is a free agent at year's end, which makes it more than likely that the Yankees will move him if, in fact, they start this set of dominoes by trading Chapman, and I think they absolutely will.
You got to believe that Jay Bruce is even more than likely to be traded given Cincinnati's situation, and Bruce is having a very good year for the Reds. What sort of teams are interested in Jay Bruce?
Well, there have been teams like the Dodgers, the Giants. Previously, we know that the Blue Jays were interested in him. We know early in the year that the White Sox were interested in him. But like with Beltran, it feels like that the corner outfield market is shrinking a little bit. I talked with some executives today who believe that Bruce will move before the deadline, but it may be in the last 48 to 72 hours.
Here's another well-hit ball to the opposite field. Tommy Pham has gone deep.
You could tell Tommy Pham looking for something out over middle away. He gets a fastball on the outside part of the plate, and you see how explosive his lower half is. Not a huge guy, but watch his lower half, especially that back leg, that back knee, just drive towards where the pitch is located. The ball has been flying to right field, but he definitely got all of this one.
So the Cardinals putting a bit of a dent into that deficit, now trailing 9-3. The Cardinals have now homered in each of their last 15 games. The San Diego Padres, maybe a little known fact outside of San Diego, have homered in 22 consecutive games, including today. That's a franchise record for the Padres. Not a team, and certainly not a ballpark where you associate a whole lot of power happening. All right, let's get back to Buster. You also, Buster, had Jonathan Lucroy on the list. Now, this is a whole different situation. This is one of the top catchers in baseball. You mentioned the Indians in another context earlier, and after the Yan Gomes injury, you certainly think about Cleveland as a possibility. Are they a possibility, and who else may be interested in Lucroy?
The Indians have had conversations about Lucroy, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of traction there. The Rangers have had talks about Lucroy, but the Rangers' focus is on pitching. The New York Mets reportedly have talked to the Brewers about Jonathan Lucroy. They, of course, would be turning a page on Travis d'Arnaud if they make that trade.
And, of course, that's just a handful of guys who could be traded. You could see, although the White Sox won 2 games today, won the suspended game from the Tigers, then won the regularly scheduled game. But might they be interested? If they don't consider themselves in it, will they move some players? Whether it's a total rebuilding job and Chris Sale's a part of that, or whether it's other pieces like Zach Duke out of the bullpen, Melky Cabrera, Adam Eaton maybe. San Diego, you hear a lot of talk about them, Buster, guys like Andrew Cashner, Melvin Upton Jr.
Yeah, and I can follow up on the White Sox situation. I talked to the executives today who said the White Sox are listening on everybody right now. But the expectation among rival executives is they probably will hang on to Sale and Jose Quintana because both of them have such team-friendly contracts. Not only is Chris Sale one of the best pitchers in baseball, one of the most valuable pitchers in baseball, he has one of the most valuable contracts, making only $9.1 million this year, $12 million next year, and then successive team options for 2018, 2019. So he was guaranteed only $21 million in this deal coming into this year. So a lot of people would be willing to give up a lot for Chris Sale. And when you talk with executives, they feel like that this is a situation where this will play out in the offseason.
Colton Wong shaken up on that play at first base, and it looked like it may have happened after he ran through the bag as he was trying to avoid Dana DeMuth, the first base umpire who was making the call on the play.
Well, it's a slow developing play, so it was going to be a bang-bang play as it was. And so, as you would imagine, Colton Wong hustling down the line. It does look like Kazmir just does beat him, but Dana DeMuth with that quick call, but in that line, and hopefully nothing serious.
Hopefully nothing worse than a cramp, but you could see as Wong tried to avoid DeMuth. He's fine here, and there is where he appears to suffer the injury. And Wong walking off the field right now. We'll have to wait and see if he's okay to continue. So one down here in the bottom of the second. The Dodgers lead the Cardinals 9-3 as Wong will go get some medical attention in the clubhouse. The batter is Manus, who came out of the bullpen in the top half of the inning to replace Myers. Well, Buster, a team that a lot of people are talking about in terms of the trade market, of course, is the Dodgers. And a lot of that centers around the injury to Clayton Kershaw. The difficulty, as we mentioned, is they don't know, or if they do, they're not saying at least, when will he be back? Will he be back? What are you hearing about Kershaw? And what are you hearing about how motivated the Dodgers are to go out and get a starting pitcher?
Well, they are in a really difficult spot. You don't envy Andrew Friedman, the president of baseball ops for the Dodgers, in the decision that he has to make, because if in fact they were to go out and aggressively trade for a starting pitcher, guys, this is an historically thin starting pitching market, very overpriced in the eyes of a lot of general managers, not a lot of options. So if you're sitting in Friedman's shoes, do you go out and spend a big package of prospects on someone like Chris Archer, who would be very pricey for the Tampa Bay Rays because he also has a great team-friendly contract? Or do you hold on to your prospects until the winter and decide, you know what, we have a lot of different starting pitching options. Maybe we'll just go for second and third tier solutions in the bullpen and the rotation. That's my guess as to what they're going to do. That they have looked at a lot of different positions. Outfield, there were some conversations about catchers, the pitching staff, but it doesn't seem like as of tonight as if there's a primary focus for the Dodgers. And let's face it, they've actually played pretty well since Clayton Kershaw went down, and that makes the decision a little easier.
Yeah, if they win tonight, they're just 3 games back of the Giants. We mentioned earlier they're 14-8 since the last time Kershaw pitched on June 26th. And of course, before he got hurt, guys, this was one of the great pitchers ever in the game having his best season. You could easily make a case that at the time he got hurt, he was the most valuable player in the National League. They're managing to keep their heads above water so far without him.
Well, it's one thing to lose a starting pitcher, your ace, but the fact that this team 14-2 in his starts, I mean, he was an MVP caliber position, a difference maker on this team in every way, not just the fact that he takes the mound and throws really well. Probably the best player to any team in baseball. The fact that the Dodgers lost him, I mean, that's huge, and it's indefinite. You don't know when he's coming back.
The Dodgers have used 12 different starting pitchers this year. They've used the DL more than any team in baseball, 22 different times. More than 1,200 man games lost this year. Swing and a miss, and Jimenez strikes out, 2 down. Tomorrow night, 2 of the game's great sluggers, Miguel Cabrera and the Tigers, David Ortiz and the Red Sox, 7 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN. Also streaming live on Watch ESPN and the ESPN app. And after the game, stay with ESPN for Baseball Tonight with all the highlights and analysis for the best in the business. The Red Sox wound up splitting a 4-game series with the Twins over the weekend. They beat Minnesota 8-7 today in a wild one. Hanley Ramirez, Dustin Pedroia, and Travis Shaw all homered for the Red Sox. And as we mentioned, it was a tough day for the Tigers. Lost the completion of the suspended game to the White Sox, and then lost the regularly scheduled game to the White Sox as well.
Last couple of changeups that Kazmir has thrown have really gotten away from him. You see him kind of shaking his head and continually going to the rosin. Obviously a very hot, humid night. Keeping that perspiration off the hand critical, especially when throwing those off-speed pitches and his changeup.
And we saw that was his go-to in the first inning for outs. He would go to that changeup, a lot of those ground ball outs, and even a couple of the hits were off of that changeup. And now, as you mentioned, the sweat building, him not having the same control.
There's a high strike, 2-1. 9-3 in the bottom of the second, rubber match of this 3-game weekend series between a couple of second-place teams and teams both right in the thick of things in the National League wildcard race. Fouled off by Grichuk, 2-2.
Guys, I find the Miller sweepstakes fascinating.
Yeah.
Because, look, I think a lot that happens this week. What happens this week with the Yankees, if they become full-on sellers or if they continue to play well and do hang on to him, I think right now the asking price is so high. But when you look at the teams that may be in on him ultimately, the Indians, the Nationals, the Rangers, the Giants, maybe the Dodgers, what does that look like the final 48, 72 hours when the teams are saying, no, your asking price is too much right now, but when you can get a guy like Andrew Miller to pair with someone at the back end of your bullpen, and the fact that you would have control, I think ultimately if the Yankees become full-on sellers, somebody blinks. and gives that big package to the Yankees.
But that's why if you are the Yankees, you don't want to be in the position you're in where you may not be a contender. But you don't have to trade Miller. You can keep him for the next 2 years. He's making $9 million a season, one of the best relievers in baseball. You can keep him to be your closer unless somebody blows you away.
Which is why the asking price should be high. And I think ultimately if they if they have a rough week, I think ultimately somebody does give them the package they crave.
And guys, I think that's why they're playing it out the way they are. They want to get the Chapman situation done with, so they clear the deck for the Andrew Miller conversations. And look, it's been a terrible year for the Yankees, but they've got the 2 golden tickets. It's like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. They've got the 2 primary relievers who've had success in every situation and can dominate in October.
Here's Aledmys Diaz. High fly ball to right field. Tolles with room. And the inning is over. Tommy Pham with a 2-run shot to get the Cardinals a little bit closer. Presented by Taco Bell. It is 9-3. The Dodgers lead the Cardinals going to the top of the 3rd. Seth Maness back on the mound for St. Louis. Jock Peterson leading it off for the Dodgers. Peterson walked, stole a base, and scored back in the 6-run first inning. The 2-1 swing and a miss by Peterson. 2-2. He'll be followed by the pitcher Scott Kazmir, who had a 2-run single back in the first, and then back to the top of the order for Chase Utley. And a base hit. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell, is brought to you by Apartments.com. Change your apartment, change the world. And Blue Moon, artfully brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. Something's brewing. Welcome to Busch Stadium with Aaron Boone, Jessica Mendoza, and Buster Olney. I'm Dan Schulman. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. Kazmir is up. And maybe to drop a bunt down. He squares and bunts through it for a strike. He's got 5 sacrifices on the season. Bounced one past the mound into center field for a 2-run single his first time up. Upset with himself there at his inability to execute.
Well, and I always wonder too, in a sacrifice situation where everyone knows you're bunting, why go to the drag? Meaning, why go to where you're moving through the box? You're not trying for a base hit. Just square around. There he goes. And that's the difference. So what he did the time before is he tried to move through the box while he was bunting, which is more of a bunt for a base hit style versus just staying still, squaring it around.
And with those corners pressing in, even if he executes the drag bunt, there's
all over.
Yeah.
You're not sneaking it up on anybody.
Yes, he did, says home plate umpire Greg Gibson, and that's a strikeout. So 1 down in the inning, and back to the top of the order for Chase Utley, getting his 3rd at bat here in the 3rd inning. Was up twice in the 1st inning, singled and scored, and then grounded out.
You think about guys that the Dodgers got in the offseason, and Utley was already with them, but continuing this 1-year deal, and there was so much skepticism and paying the amount of money that they did for Utley and at the back end of his career. But what he's done for this team, especially in the leadoff role, I mean, he has just kicked it up another notch as far as his at-bats, his passion. I mean, there's been so much credit, including Corey Seager, the rookie, who credits Chase Utley for so much of his success early in his own career. That's worth then and then probably double of the amount he's getting paid.
Ball and a strike on Utley.
Well, and he's had stretches too where he's been a really good player and an impact player. He's hit for some power. He's had stretches where he's gotten on base a ton. And with the depth of this roster, you can afford to sit him down against tougher matchups so you can keep him fresh throughout the year.
Liner to center. Pham is there, 2 down. So with 2 outs, that'll bring up the guy we were just talking about, Corey Seager, all of 22 years of age in his first full major league season. Of course, came up late last year and did extremely well and has taken it to another level this year. You can understand why now over the last couple of years, every time a team said, sure, we'll trade you this guy, but we got to get Seager back, you can understand why the Dodgers hung up the phone. 17 home runs. Ground ball to 3rd. And that'll end the inning. No runs, a base hit, and the man left. Speaking of Seager, Jessica Mendoza will go one-on-one with him when we come back. For the game tonight, Jessica Mendoza went one-on-one with Corey Seager.
Corey, last time I saw you was in San Diego. Home Run Derby, your dad, Jeff's throwing to you. It's your rookie season. What was that experience like?
It was a lot of fun. It was a little overwhelming seeing all the guys, being around best players in the game. You see right here, I had a blast. Me and him kind of hung out in the clubhouse before, got his nerves out of the way. It pretty sentimental moment for me and him for sure.
A lot of fans, a lot of fun. And speaking of your rookie season, we made up a pretty cool cartoon of the Dodger organization. There's been 16 Rookie of the Years. You take a look at Valenzuela, Piazza, you have the opportunity to possibly be the 17th. But when you think about the tradition of the Dodgers and your season, what has this all been like for you?
It's been fun. Never really thought about kind of winning that. It's never really about the personal goals during the year. It's about winning that night. That's kind of all I've really tried to do, is kind of go out, do whatever you can to help the team win that night.
And a big part of your success, you got big bro Kyle, who plays for the Mariners. You guys talk almost every day. What has his advice been as you try to navigate through the season?
He's kind of just helped me throughout my career. Come through the minor leagues now, it's always been that little guy on the shoulder that you can ask for, whether it's in the clubhouse, on the field, all that stuff. He's been through it, done it already, so he's always been the guy that I go to ask about.
And he's had a pretty decent year as well. When it comes to Thanksgiving time, you think about it, you guys are around the table. Who's got bragging rights?
Oh, he does right now. He's probably winning in a lot of categories, so hopefully towards the end of the year I can catch him a little bit.
Little home run thing going on right now, 1917.
There's for sure a home run battle going on.
All right, thanks a lot, Corey.
Thank you.
Now, Corey Seager, a huge part of not just the future, but the present for the LA Dodgers. And before we get into that too much more, Kyle Seager's on your all underrated team, Aaron, right? Around the major leagues?
Oh, Kyle Seager.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been putting up strong year after strong year now for the last 3 or 4 years, but obviously with Seattle not being much of a factor, playing better this year, obviously more in the pennant race, but yeah, he's as rock solid as they get. Solid defensively at third, just a steady middle of the order bat, and looking forward to getting to see him next week in Chicago.
Yeah, Mariners and Cubs 1 week from tonight here on Sunday Night Baseball. Here's Matt Holliday, double in a run back in the first. Tricky hop, Turner with a nice play. Meanwhile, back to Corey Seager, as we mentioned, certainly one of the leading contenders for the National League Rookie of the Year. So is Trevor Story of Colorado, who hit 2 homers yesterday, 1 more today. He's got 27. The all-time Major League record for a rookie shortstop is 30 by Nomar Garciaparra. Aledmys Diaz here with the Cardinals, hitting well over 300 and very productive as well. And then, as mentioned, Corey Seager hitting over 300, 27 doubles, 17 home runs. There's some very good rookie pitchers in the National League as well. Kenta Maeda's having a nice season for the Dodgers, but it wouldn't surprise anybody if the Rookie of the Year award, the Jackie Robinson Award, he won it back in 1947 for the Brooklyn Dodgers, if the Rookie of the Year award went to one of those 3 shortstops.
And you know, when you think of the Rookie of the Year award, or at least I do, you know, a lot of times the MVP award tends to go to that guy that's in the pennant chase, that has the best finish if it's close with other candidates. The Rookie of the Year is just truly usually measured on your season and your numbers, but because it's Diaz is in the mix and because Seager's in the mix in this game, both teams that I'm sure will be playing meaningful games in the month of September, it could be, hey, who has the biggest impact down the stretch? Because to this point, they've both had outstanding rookie seasons.
Change up, and Kazmir gets the call. 2-1 the count on Jerko.
And with Corey Seager in particular, I love the way that he's played defense this year, and that's something that doesn't really get talked about, especially because he was projected to be a third baseman, and that was something he worked on this offseason, was to make sure to improve as a shortstop, to really be a legit defender. And one thing in particular he said was how upright he would get fielding ground balls. Because of that, he'd throw a lot. He was very inconsistent with his throws to first base. He'd throw them in the dirt. So he's really stayed in his legs more. And you can see an improvement in jump and a legit shortstop.
Check swing on a 3-1 changeup. Seager long throw in time. Just does get Jerko to end the inning. A big shortstop, but a guy working hard on the defensive side of the ball. recently visited with Dodger manager Dave Roberts.
Dave, sometimes facing a rookie pitcher can be kind of dicey. How'd you feel about your team's at-bats?
Yeah, you know what, you just never know what to expect, and with veteran hitters that we have, we had a good approach, and Turner Ward got to the guys and had a plan, and we executed. So kid's got a good arm, but for us, fortunately, Adrian had a big hit right there.
You guys are 14-8 since Clayton Kershaw went down, off to a good start tonight. What have you seen in your team during this time?
I think just the ability to focus, and we compete, and 25 guys out there that are focused on winning each game, and obviously we're a lot better team with Clayton, but we're waiting for his return, but until then, we're going to keep winning baseball games.
Dave, thanks.
Dave Roberts spoke several times when we were visiting with him before the game about how tough he thinks his players are. And he says it just comes from them. He didn't say it's anything that he's imparted upon them, but again, they've dealt with more injuries than any team in baseball. They are still playing well, even without Kershaw, and he thinks he's got a very tough group in the clubhouse.
But he also hinted that he almost had to have a conversation coming out of the break about just staying that focus that he mentioned to Buster, of not letting the distractions, whether it's the injuries, whether it's the trade deadline, whether it's Clayton Kershaw, but he felt like there was a little bit too much of that going on.
Turner lines one to left center, but Grichuk will run it down. Well, I think if you said to Dave Roberts or the Dodger players or Dodger management or anybody, you'd have used the DL more than any team in baseball, and if you win this game tonight, you'd be 3 games out of first place in the division. They'd have taken that.
Absolutely, and especially the way they're playing now, as the offense has really turned the corner, and the bullpen, which was very dicey the first few weeks of the season, has now turned into a real strength. A lot of guys emerging in setup roles, a lot of versatility down there that Dave Roberts can just play the matchup game, and ultimately bridging that gap to one of the premier closers in Kenley Jansen.
1-1 the count on Adrian Gonzalez. Hit a grand slam in the first inning, had a base hit and scored in the second. Dodgers with 6 in the first, 3 more in the second. Swing and a miss, 2-2. That was Gonzalez trying to pull one and hit it in the air.
That was a swing path you saw on the slider back in the first that broke this game open.
Lines it into right field, a base hit, and Gonzalez is 3 for 3. Let's go to our greater coverage of baseball play of the game, brought to you by T-Mobile. And we'll take you back to the first inning. Bases loaded, nobody out, top of the first. The pitch came in at 87. It went out at 104, just to the right of straightaway center field. 400 feet plus. 9th home run of the season for Gonzalez, and it was a grand slam.
That was a slider in the heart of the plate, and Willie Myers' inability to put in the mind of the Dodgers hitters that he could get them out with a secondary pitch allowed these Dodgers to stay aggressive on the fastball, but then when that one mistake off-speed pitch did show up, Adrian Gonzalez put a charge in it.
A rough night for Mike Myers in his major league debut. Lasts an inning and a third, gives up 9 runs, all earned. Surrenders a couple of homers. A couple of bad breaks, if you will. An infield hit for Seager, a bouncer up the middle for Kazmir that scored a couple, but he just could not put hitters away. Came up because of the rainout Tuesday, the doubleheader Wednesday, the 16-inning game Friday. They needed another pitcher, and undoubtedly you would think he'll go back down to the minors after tonight's game, and they'll have a reliever. With all the innings the bullpen will get here tonight and all the innings they've already had this weekend, they'll have a reliever, you would think, meet them in New York for the start of the series with the Mets tomorrow night.
And obviously this certainly isn't what you want for the young man, but this is one of those experiences that, okay, you got a little taste of it. It went really poorly, but you're having a really nice season coming off of injury a year ago at AA and AAA. And go down and continue to build on that. You know there's obviously a ton of things you need to work on, but this season still has a chance to be a success for Myers as he continues to try and build and ultimately get back on that mound here for the Cardinals.
Howie Kendrick remains hot. He has doubled and homered already tonight. Slow roller to third. And Kendrick is retired for the second out. Gonzalez was running on the play. He's at second with 2 down. Will the trades made in July pay off in October? Join MLB Network for a full week of news, deals, and buzz leading up to the 2016 MLB trade deadline. Go to MLBnetwork.com for full schedule. And although we always call it, or almost always call it, the July 31st trade deadline, because July 31st is a Sunday this year, baseball decided, and I think rightfully so, that they didn't want all that going on as games were being played. So the deadline this year is actually August the 1st, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 week from tomorrow, August the 1st. Here's Yasmani Grandal. And again, worth mentioning, you can make trades after the deadline. It's just that players have to clear waivers. So guys with pretty good contracts will not clear waivers, but guys with big contracts or contracts that are maybe beyond their actual value, they will clear waivers. And there is a chance that some pretty decent players could still be traded. And you got to imagine that John Mozeliak, the GM of the Cardinals, is working the phone. Maybe for bullpen help. Trevor Rosenthal's no longer the closer for St. Louis. He's had a real bout of wildness this year. And Sung-Hwan Oh is now closing for the Cardinals. Kevin Segrist is in the mix as a late left-hander, 7th and 8th inning. Jonathan Broxton as well. But I don't think it would shock anybody if the Cardinals added a reliever to their bullpen in the next week or so. Grandal grounds out, and the inning is over. Still 9-3 Dodgers. It's 9-3 as they come up in the bottom of the 4th. Moments ago, Buster Olney with Cardinal manager Mike Matheny.
Mike, when Myers came back to the dugout after you removed him, the camera showed you sitting down next to him, talking with him. What did you tell him?
Basically telling him that he's done a great job this year. He's had a nice season in the minor leagues. It was one of those tough days. You have so much adrenaline going. I think some of that excitement maybe put a little more on his off-speed pitches. You could tell he got into good counts and then getting foul balls instead of the swings and misses. But he's going to be a good pitcher. You could tell his resilience. He came out and kept throwing strikes. Just a tough first night, but he's going to be good.
Yadi hit a ball to right center field, stopped at second base, and looked at the dugout as if to say, no, I'm not going to try for third.
Yeah, you know, he has fun out here, and it's nice to see him like that when he's feeling good. And, you know, just to keeping guys light, that's part of the leadership we have on our team. And, you know, still listening to these guys talk about how there's a lot of game left to play. You know, this is one of those that could be a lot of fun if we can pull something together.
Mike, thanks.
And now it looks like Yadier Molina summoned the trainer from the Cardinal dugout to talk over something with Greg Gibson, maybe to make sure Gibson's okay on this hot night. Everybody's smiling, so it appears everybody's good, but this appeared to have been started by Molina.
I don't think we can understate how hot it is here. And obviously, the home plate umpire is always somebody that you keep an eye on when these summer months pick up and you get these hot, humid days and nights, because they don't have a half inning off where they go sit down. They're constantly with all that equipment on, so you know he's smoking hot. Good to see him laughing at least, so it looks like he's okay.
100 degrees at game time. A heat wave that has covered much of the country in recent days. Yadier Molina leads off the fourth and takes down an in ball one from Scott Kazmir. You were, before the game, Aaron, you were kind of remembering some of your playing days. You played a bunch of years in Cincinnati. It can be about as hot as anywhere in Cincinnati, but it's, I mean, to be out there for several hours. Line down to third, and Turner is there.
Well, let's take a look at Kazmir's night and what's made him so successful in this good stretch of starts that he's had. He has owned the outer half to right-handed hitters with that good low 90s fastball, and then he works the changeup off that same play. Jessica talked about the mile per hour difference, 15, 16 miles an hour, a lot of weak contact, but the fastball away then sets up excellent arm speed. The changeup in the same location. He's got some weak contact tonight.
Well, it's that both the same plane and then the dramatic mile per hour difference. And it looks like the same pitch, especially on the arm side that you saw away to righties. And that's his bread and butter. I mean, he loves going with his fastball, the arm side part of the plate.
There it is. And I'm telling you, as a hitter, you just don't, because he doesn't slow his body down and the arm speed remains the same, and then it's a 15-mile-an-hour difference. It's a big deal to a hitter, even if you're looking for the pitch.
Tommy Pham, who homered his last time up, fights another one off foul. The count remains 0-2.
In 75-76, you usually see that with the curveball, but the curveball is so much easier to see out of the hand because of the way it's released versus the changeup, especially with his grip. Deeper in the palm, it's harder to recognize, and it's going to look more like a fastball out of the hand versus the curve.
And he does enough to the inside part of the plate. And tonight, obviously, pitching with a big lead, it's a little bit different because he's probably just more inclined to pound the strike zone and make the Cardinals hit their way on. We saw that happen a little where, you know, he's just working that fastball away, trying to get some early outs. But he will go inside, but he'll usually do it with the cut fastball. Because he doesn't command that side of the plate as well, he'll throw a little cut on it to get some movement, and that opens up that outside part of the plate for him.
And I think even he would say he hasn't had his best changeup tonight. The last two have been up above the zone.
It's been a little inconsistent. We saw in the second inning where he was struggling for the feel, and I think it has a lot to do with the heat. We've seen him kind of shaking the sweat off his hand, continually going to the rosin bag.
That one up in the zone, but called strike three, 2 down.
Well, the best part about the changeup is the way that he will manipulate it. He's able to take this pitch, he can spike it in the dirt, give it a different look, then takes the eye level up in the zone and the velocity difference. You see 77-76. Then he can bring it back down into the zone for a strike. It looks like it's going to stay up for a ball, but then it comes right back into the zone, and that's why it was taken by Pham for strike three. There's that grip. You see it palm deep into his palm, but it's the key for him is that index finger, the way he releases that ball. He's able to get that manipulation that he needs to be able to take off velocity or have different areas of the zone that he'll work. It almost helped him that the two pitches prior were out of the zone, even though he didn't have the command he wanted, because that's why Pham took it.
Fouled back by Colton Wong. 1-2 on Wong, who appeared to injure his left leg trying to avoid the first base umpire Dana DeMuth his last time up on a ground ball, but stayed in the game. Wong was really struggling earlier, was actually sent down to the minors, played some center field, and has played some outfield for the Cardinals as well. As they continue to, they're forced to be flexible and adaptable because of some of the injuries they've had. He is back at second base now. And again, when guys like Matt Carpenter and Johnny Peralta come back, all that could change. Matt Carpenter, their leadoff hitter, but on-base machine, a doubles machine, out with an oblique injury. They're hoping to get him back maybe within a week to 10 days. Johnny Peralta's got a thumb injury. Brandon Moss is out with an ankle injury. He might be the furthest away of the three. Big chopper to first. The race is on, and it is won by Kazmir to end the inning. End of 4 in St. Louis, 9-3 Dodgers. Lead the Cardinals 9-3. And Andrew Toles will look at a strike from Seth Maness, who came on with a 1 out in the second and is now here working into the 5th. Giving the Cardinals some badly needed innings here to try to save some other members of the bullpen. Not a glamorous job, but Maness doing a good job here tonight. Toles has grounded out twice. And strike 3 called up at the top of the zone for out number 1. Well, all kinds of things going on around Major League Baseball. We spoke about it very briefly earlier, but Chris Sale suspended 5 games by his own team after that incident involving the throwback uniforms yesterday. More on that in a moment. Houston sweeps the Angels. Jose Altuve, 2 homers and 6 RBIs today. What a season he's having. And Trevor Story now leads the National League with 27 home runs on the season. Let's start with Sale. For people who haven't heard, this is reportedly what happened. The White Sox, they got a number of throwback unis and they love wearing them, and they went back to I think a 1976, I believe, 76 uniform, a navy blue uniform with a collared jersey, and reportedly, according to published reports, Chris Sale felt that the uniforms were uncomfortable as Peterson knocks one into right center field. He's thinking 2. And it wasn't a good thought. Diaz tags him out. So a base hit and then thrown out, trying to stretch it into a double. So Sale reportedly cut or tore a number of the uniforms so that the White Sox could not wear them in the game yesterday. He was supposed to start the game. He was sent home yesterday and suspended by his team for 5 games today. At times, Sale is as good a pitcher as there is in baseball. He's an emotional guy, and at times, remember, it was Sale and Kenny Williams who got into it over the Adam LaRoche situation back in the spring. There have been a couple of other things as well, but this is a very unusual situation as Kazmir chops it foul. What did you guys think?
Well, you know, as much as you love emotion in a player and you love the ability to share that emotion and have a strong opinion, it's a team sport. I mean, he hurt his team. He's the best pitcher in the American League right now, and he doesn't get the start, tears up uniforms. I mean, that's just not how you communicate when you're on a team, and there's so many different ways for him to do that without making it such a big deal and hurting his team ultimately.
Well, a quick inning. More on this as time permits when we come back. Kids today. In the heat here in St. Louis, we go to the bottom of the 5th inning. The Dodgers 6 in the first, 3 in the second. They lead the Cardinals 9-3. The Cardinals coming up. Randal Grichuk will bat second, but Greg Garcia has emerged from the dugout to pinch hit for Seth Maness. Maness going 3 2/3 in tonight's game. His previous season high was 2 1/3.
Huge outing by Maness to get some much needed innings, at least get this game to the middle innings. So you see Trevor Rosenthal start to throw. Now, you know, you're at least in a position to not crush your bullpen. Now you can 1 inning here, 1 inning there, and with the exception of Maness probably now being down a couple days, but in theory you would get Lyons back and available tomorrow after a couple days after his 4+ inning of work.
Mike Myers in his major league debut going just an inning and a third. Scott Kazmir here working into the 5th. He's given up 3 runs through the first 4 innings, including a 2-run homer to Tommy Pham. He'll face Garcia, Grichuk, and Diaz here in the 5th inning.
Well, another part of the depth of this Cardinal position player group this season. Greg Garcia, an on-base percentage over 440 on the year. He's been excellent in this role really the last couple of years. Tough out off the bench.
4 for 11 with a homer as a pinch hitter this year. 5 for 12 with a homer as a pinch hitter this year. Aboard on a leadoff base hit. Well, we started to talk about Chris Sale. Jess, you gave us your thoughts on how he handled the situation. Aaron, you had another angle on this you wanted to pursue.
Well, first off, it's unacceptable. I mean, you can't do that. And as a player and as obviously a star player that Chris Sale is, look, you can voice your opinion. But you can't go and do what he did. What I find interesting is we've started to hear his name now surface in potential trade discussions as the White Sox maybe are wrestling with the idea of, are we going to rebuild? I think this incident, well, let me just say, I don't think he ends up getting traded, but I think this incident does make it more likely of the possibility. What doesn't change is the price tag. This doesn't hit the White Sox position. This doesn't make it less of a package to now get Chris Sale, who's clearly one of the great pitchers in the sport.
Here's the statement from Rick Hahn, the general manager of the White Sox. Chris has been suspended for violating team rules, for insubordination, and for destroying team equipment. While we all appreciate Chris's talent and passion, there is a correct way and an incorrect way to express concern about team rules and organizational expectations. Let's go down to Buster for more.
Yeah, and guys, BB Abbott, who is Chris Sale's agent, texted our colleague Jason Stark and informed him that Sale talked at length with White Sox general manager Rick Hahn about Saturday's incident and said, quote, there will not be an issue once Sale returns. And this isn't surprising. Look, Chris Sale is a very respected player in that clubhouse. He's well liked in that clubhouse, and they know that he can be emotional, and it seems like that both sides are ready to move on.
Well, they got off to such a good start this season, and although again they won 2 games today, the suspended game and the regularly scheduled game against the Tigers, they're still 2 games under 500, and realistically, as you look at the wild card standings, they got a lot of teams to climb over, and you got to believe that they are going to be sellers. They are 6.5 out of the second wild card spot right now, but they've got 5 teams between them and that second wild card spot.
Well, and Dan, one guy that they have that's really interesting, if in fact they followed through with some of these cursory conversations they've had the last 72 hours, is going to be Todd Frazier, who's a free agent after 2017, someone that the White Sox traded for during the offseason to increase their power. But, you know, he's got positional flexibility. He's got experience. He's got so much energy. You have to believe that there'd be some team in the next week that at least ask the White Sox about what it would take to get him.
Well, as we mentioned before, they've got pieces, whether it's Melky Cabrera or Zach Duke out of the pen or Adam Eaton, maybe Deanna Navarro, even though he's not having his typical year. If they decide to make some changes, they could be very active between now and the trade deadline. Todd Frazier not hitting for an average this year, but he is second in the majors, in fact, in home runs behind only Mark Trumbo of the Orioles. I know, Buster, you've talked a lot. He's a Jersey guy. Maybe the Mets have a fit for him at third base.
Yeah, especially because David Wright has such an uncertain future. Yeah, you do wonder if they'll explore that. I think they're more open to that type of move.
Swing and a miss by Grichuk for out number 1. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell, is brought to you by Charles Schwab and in part by Firestone. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone. And Otesla. Learn more at otesla.com.
Let me throw one more log on that Todd Frazier Mets fire, too. Remember, Yoenis Cespedes can opt out of his contract at the end of this year. And if that actually happens, the Mets will be looking for some power.
Here's Diaz 0 for 2. I'm not sure we're going to have blockbuster deals between now and August the 1st, but I think we're going to have a lot of really meaningful, interesting deals.
It's a fun week.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know the 4 of us with Buster's a lot more close to the situation because he's working the phones and he's usually getting some scoop, but it's a fun time of year to be a baseball fan and just to imagine some of the trades and to and to hear some of them being completed and how it can potentially affect these pennant races.
Yep.
I'll be glued to my phone and TV this week.
Well, and again, one of the stories tonight, we talked about it a couple of innings ago, is reportedly the Cubs may be closing in on a deal for Aroldis Chapman.
I mean, just think about that. I mean, the Cubs and the stars that they have already, and Chapman probably one of the biggest stars when you think about pitchers just across the board, let alone a closer. And if the Cubs acquire him, I mean, just going down the stretch.
Chapman, Rondon, back end.
Jeez.
Not bad, huh?
But you got to believe the first person to greet him at the door is going to be first baseman Anthony Rizzo and say, welcome aboard, after being on the other side for all those years you were in Cincinnati.
That's right.
Well,
there's Diaz lifting a fly ball to right field, playable for Tolles.
And Buster, that's a conversation you and I have had. Remember when Chapman was in Cincinnati, they had some altercations between the Reds and the Cubs, between Chapman and Anthony Rizzo. So there's been those confrontations, but you know now where the Cubs are in their evolution as a team, it's hard to imagine that he wouldn't be welcomed with open arms.
Especially if he can help deliver possibly the first World Series championship in better than a century to the north side of Chicago. But you look around and you wonder about other teams we've talked about, whether the Indians or the Rangers or the Nationals or Giants would want a bullpen piece. The Blue Jays in that boat as well, probably. The Baltimore Orioles, you got to imagine they're looking for a starting pitcher. Although their starting pitching was great over the weekend. They just swept Cleveland and got 3 very well pitched games. But will they be looking for a starting pitcher? Texas has some starting pitchers on the DL. Are they in the market for a starter as well? And what will these two teams do? Activity in the Dodger pen. Pedro Baez has been up here in the 5th inning. Kazmir 1 out away from qualifying for a victory, trying to get through the 5th inning. Hot night. Up over 90 pitches now as he bounces one in.
I like to see where Jonathan Lucroy ends up. I mean, he's somebody, we mentioned it with Kyle Seager being underrated, but because of Lucroy playing for the Brewers, he's a guy that maybe not as much as Yoenis Cespedes and what he did for the Mets, but I really feel like the team that Lucroy ends up with, I mean, watch out. I think his second half of the season, you're gonna see him, and underrated no more.
Well, think how good the Indians are this year, and with Yan Gomes going down, and I feel like Lucroy kind of kills 2 birds with 1 stone potentially for the Indians. They could definitely use a right-handed bat and obviously a catcher, and Lucroy gives you both of that as a frontline offensive catcher, but also capable defensively.
I see him with the Mets, and that's just because I get so excited about what happened to them last season, and that's what they need so badly right now, is just that infusion of some offense and a big right-handed bat at that. And with Travis d'Arnaud and the struggles that he's had to put someone behind the plate, fill a piece there in New York, he'll get the attention he deserves.
3-1 to Piscotty.
Booney, I hear you on the Indians and Lucroy. One thing I would say is that I've heard over and over and over again, the Indians are going to get a left-hander before the trade deadline, and it will be interesting to see how much they dig in on Andrew Miller, if Aroldis Chapman winds up going to the Cubs, or focusing on some other left-hander, because they feel like they have a really complete pitching staff except for that piece.
There goes the runner, and the 3-2 sent foul. A very hot night here in St. Louis, and the Dodgers came out swinging against rookie Mike Myers, making his major league debut. 4 batters in, it was 4-0 on the grand slam by Adrian Gonzalez. They went on to score 6 in the first, 3 more in the second. Cardinals chipped away in each of those 2 innings, with 1 in the first, 2 in the second. Nobody has scored since. Kazmir trying to get through the 5th here, with the Dodgers still leading 9-3 in the rubber match of this 3-game series. There goes the runner Garcia again. It swung on and hit in the air to right center field. Tolles is there, and that's the inning. No runs, a base hit, and a man left. End of 5. Dodgers by 6. lead, the Dodgers, over the Cardinals. They did a lot of damage, as we mentioned, in the early going tonight. Time now for Bringing It Home, brought to you by Quicken Loans. And here are the two big home runs. The grand slam by Agon in the first inning, his second home run in as many nights. And then in the second inning, Howie Kendrick, about as hot as anybody around right now, goes to the opposite field for his 6th home run of the season. Meanwhile, for the Cardinals now, their former closer, Trevor Rosenthal, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, has really struggled with his control. A lot of walks. And after a couple of blown saves and some other narrow escapes, the Cardinals finally decided to make a move. And Rosenthal now pitching in middle relief, largely in games in which the Cardinals are trailing.
And guys, if they can get Trevor Rosenthal right, remember, he's been one of the best closers in the game the last couple of years. If they can somehow get him right, he all of a sudden becomes like an addition to the back end of the bullpen, like a trade piece, because obviously what O has become this season, Segras having another really nice season. If they can get Rosenthal back, that gives them a dynamic 3 back there. But he's got to find his command, something that has been a serious issue. 24 walks in 32 1/3 innings, but the stuff certainly there. Still that high 90s fastball, real good changeup, and the cut fastball, but the command has been all over the place for him this season.
Well, Mike Matheny responded to kind of what does he need right now, and it was innings. He needs to go out and pitch, and there was even a glimpse of a rumor of him even possibly starting this game, putting him in there, and he had kind of asked for that, and getting him that length, getting him that ability to be able to throw a lot of innings and work on it.
Just to tie a bow on Seth Maness's outing. He came on in the second inning, went a career-high 3 2/3 shutout innings tonight, saving some members of the bullpen. Rosenthal may be out there for more than one. Mike Matheny wants to use as few guys as possible with the series opening up at Citi Field tomorrow night. Changeup and a swing and a miss to get Utley. Tomorrow night here on ESPN, Monday Night Baseball at 7 Eastern time. It'll be the Tigers and the Red Sox. Then you can see the Cubs and the White Sox not once but twice. Tuesday night at U.S. Cellular Field, Wednesday night at Wrigley Field. And we'll be at Wrigley 1 week from tonight as the Cubs host the Seattle Mariners on Sunday Night Baseball. The Cubs with a win today over Milwaukee, so they are at the moment 7 up on St. Louis for top spot of the National League Central, as Corey Seager has his 2nd hit of the night and his 7th hit in the series.
You know, he had the flu. He was out 3 games. I mean, crazy to think it was supposed to weaken you. Came out, had a 4-for-4 night his next night out. And obviously he's young, but not many people come off the flu and just start hitting the way he does.
Here's Justin Turner. His walks, singled, and flied out. A career high in home runs with 18, probably just a few days away from a new career high in RBIs as well.
You know, part of why Turner, we've talked about him trying to get the ball in the air and inside pitches, and that's why he's had an influx in his slugging percentage. But look at his total hits and the ability for him to hit to all parts of the zone. Especially look at the outside. I mean, that's where a lot of times he does a really good job of getting in his legs and driving a pitch away.
And drives it to the opposite field to deep right center. Seager is on his way to third, will be held there. Turner into second with a double.
And this is just a perfect example of the difference of Justin Turner. It was such a timing issue early in the season, and not just with the fastball, but the changeup. This was a pitch he would have been out on his front side, but watch him get into his leg, and you see that this is an off-speed pitch, and he's able to hit it. Excuse me, a slider, and as it's breaking away from him, watch him not only recognize, but he still has enough power. This would have been a weak hit, if not a miss, earlier in the season for Justin Turner. Now he drives it into right field for a double.
You know, we talk a lot about guys being long through the zone, and I think that's what Justin Turner does so well. You did a piece with him earlier in the year where he talked about trying to hit the ball out in front. So he keeps his bat in the hitting zone for a long time, which allows him to get the ball into the air consistently. That ball got a little deeper on him, which is why he stayed in the big part of the field to right center. But, man, he is in a really good groove.
For much of the season, the Dodger offense was struggling, and at times struggling badly. But now Turner's going.
Yeah.
And Kendrick is going. And Seager is going.
And look, I think it continues with Turner because he's been a dynamic offensive player for them the last couple of years. This year we're seeing more power and more everyday play. The challenge for the Dodgers will be keeping Turner rested enough that he's strong down the stretch. He's had a little bit of an issue with durability and them willing to throw him out every single day. The last couple of seasons, they've always felt like they've needed to give him a rest. As you look, since he's become a Dodger, he's become a very good offensive player. But keeping him rested enough, coming off an off season where he was rehabbing an injury and not training, so that he's a impact player in the middle down the stretch would be key.
Rosenthal throwing a lot of changeups and went back-to-back with a changeup there to strike out Adrian Gonzalez. 2 down in the inning. And now here's Kendrick, who in the first inning when he doubled extended a hitting streak to a 16-gamer, longest active streak in the big leagues. Homered in the second, then grounded out in the fourth.
And that's where they need to stay with Kendrick, because right now he is so hot, because anything middle away, he is all over. Saw the home run, the double earlier. Fastball up in the zone, fastball away.
Ground ball to second. And that's the inning as the Dodgers leave a couple of men on. 9-3 going to the bottom of the 6th when we come back. Matt Holliday, the subject of Aaron's boondoggle. Maybe the biggest forearms in a baseball. So when Aaron decides to go boondoggling Matt Holliday, Aaron needs a little help from the prop department. Fortunately, we have a prop department.
Oh, yeah.
And they provided Aaron with some Popeye forearms.
They look so natural on him.
And this is the best part, right there.
Nailed it.
Those aren't props. I was actually in the gym this morning.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Really
My bad.
Those were arm sleeves
Yeah.
over the forearms. I like the tattoos you just got, too.
You know.
He's one of these guys when you shake his hand, like you want to turn your head
It's
away
memorable.
before the tears start going down your face.
It's memorable.
Right? You know, it's like,
Yeah. Greg Luzinski,
Yeah.
Nick Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt Holliday.
That's a big man. Hitting for power this year, 17 home runs, had an RBI double back in the first inning. Holliday pops one to foul. Next week, we're kind of going off the board a little bit here. I think every week this year we've picked one player or ex-player from one of the Sunday night teams and one from the other, but we're going double Mariners here. Hall of Famer Ken Griffey Jr. or Ichiro. This is a win-win. There's no lose here.
I'd love to see your sweet left-handed swing. Matt Holliday rocks the Griffey Jr. shoes. Over 100 sent out by Nike across baseball today to honor Ken Griffey Jr. getting inducted to the Hall of Fame with Mike Piazza today.
Congratulations to Ken Griffey Jr. and Mike Piazza on their induction into the Hall of Fame today.
I love Hall of Fame Day. I watched pretty much all of it this afternoon and hear those speeches. Obviously got a chance to play with Junior for about 4 seasons, and in a weird way you feel a little a part of it when he's up there. It was really neat.
Well, Ken Griffey Jr. received a higher percentage of votes for induction into the Hall of Fame than anybody ever. 10 Gold Gloves, 13-time All-Star, 7 Silver Sluggers, 630 home runs, 1997 American League MVP, on and on and on it goes. He was the kid when he came up with Seattle. He could do everything. Mike Piazza hit more home runs as a catcher than any player ever. He was a 12-time All-Star. And whereas Ken Griffey Jr. was a first overall pick in 1987, Mike Piazza was taken in the 62nd round, 1390th in the 1988 draft. They only have 40 rounds now. Back then, they had 50, but you could stop earlier if you wanted to, and you could keep going if you wanted to. And some teams kept going. And Piazza was taken by the Dodgers. Although he's going into the Hall of Fame as a Met, Griffey going in as a Mariner. Piazza was taken in the 62nd round. Needless to say, nobody's ever been taken that late and gone on to the Hall of Fame.
I mean, what a wrecking machine as an offensive catcher. But the one thing that always, and playing against Piazza a lot, that's always, I always respected about him was his ability to call a game. I always, you know, as a hitter, you always think you can think along with the pitcher and the catcher. And he was one guy that I always felt like really called a good game and knew what you were thinking, partly because obviously he was such a great hitter.
Pedro Baez on the mound now for the Dodgers. Jed Jerko, the batter for the Cardinals.
Well, Baez part of what's become a very good bullpen this season. Fastball that'll get up in the mid and upper 90s, but you can see that whip in 46 and a third innings, only 26 hits allowed. He's been bitten by the long ball a little bit, but he is really settling into a dynamic reliever for the Dodgers.
Dodger bullpen is the second best collective ERA in the National League, behind only the Nationals. That guy's a big reason why. Although he blew a save on a Friday, they went on to lose the game in 16 innings. He is one of the best.
And you got to credit Dave Roberts and how he's utilized the bullpen, which was such an Achilles heel for this team. As you look at the numbers of Liberatore, Blanton, Kenley Jansen, and what they've been able to do, but also how Dave Roberts has used them more. And he talked about Liberatore and Blanton's 2 key cogs, especially you think about Jansen. He's been good for a very long time. There was no question marks about him, but there was a change in personnel, and then how he uses them back to back. Liberatore being a lefty, Baez with the velocity, Lewis Coleman, another one with the deception.
Almost hit Jerko, and the count is now full.
Well, and he talks about them being able to match up with a particular part of the lineup. So it doesn't matter, okay, Baez is in the 8th tonight or he's in the 5th or 6th tonight. It's basically based on matchups, and that way they can get their best matchups all in front of Kenley Jansen, who's obviously going to finish off the ball games.
He swung on the appeal down to first, and Jerko strikes out 2 down. Well, we showed you some Ken Griffey highlights. Let's show you some Mike Piazza highlights as he goes into the Hall of Fame today, wearing the cap of the New York Mets. Although he came up with the Dodgers, also played for the Marlins, Padres, and A's. As we mentioned, a Rookie of the Year, 427 homers, 396 of those were hit as a catcher. That's the most all-time for a catcher. An All-Star 12 times and 10 Silver Slugger awards. A fearsome hitter.
Speaking of Hall of Fame catchers.
Yeah, we'll be talking about him in a few years. He'll be a lock. Well, hopefully somebody will be talking about him. Hopefully it's us.
I grew up in LA when Piazza was coming through, and I was a catcher at the time, and I remember my dad showing me examples of his pitch framing. So you talk about him as a hitter, you think about him and his pitch calling, but I remember how he would frame, and you look at the numbers even with Yachty, along with Bob Boone.
Bob Boone.
Your dad. But that was something I remember. He was the example that I watched as a catcher and how he was able to frame up pitches. Something that Yachty does an excellent job of as well.
You know, Piazza spent, thinking of the teams that he played for, he did a lot of damage in pitchers' parks.
Yeah.
His whole career. Played in pitchers' parks, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, when you think of Piazza as a hitter, he was so powerful the other way, and his ability to drive the ball out to straightaway center and right field was certainly unique at the time, and for a catcher.
Well, one of the game's all-time great hitting catchers, and Griffey's on the short list of the game's all-time great players. Just one of the great players the sport has ever seen. And at the end of his speech today, inside the podium or the dais, there was a baseball cap that he had stashed in there, and he took it out, Mariners cap, put it on his head backwards.
Best walk-off that I've seen in a Hall of Fame speech. Awesome.
Like he did when he was a young man.
After he made you cry with his speech that was just so emotionally powerful, and then gets you smiling like only Griffey can.
Hey, everybody's working up a sweat here tonight. It is hot in St. Louis. Dodgers up 9-3. Molina 1 for 2, doubled and scored in the second, lined out in the fourth. Sharply hit, but right at Utley. And that'll end the inning. So Hall of Fame induction day. Always a special day for baseball fans. Mike Piazza going in, and Ken Griffey Jr. finishing things up in style at his speech at Cooperstown. Bell. Top 7 here in St. Louis. Dan Shulman, Aaron Boone, Jessica Mendoza, Buster Olney. 9-3 Dodgers. Trying to move within 3 of the front-running San Francisco Giants in the National League West after the Giants lost again today, beaten by the Yankees, who took 2 out of 3 from them. Trevor Rosenthal back out for his second inning of work. Faces Yasmani Grandal to begin the inning. By the way, in that Yankee-Giant game, the 3 big horses, and we've been talking about Chapman and Miller a lot tonight, Dellin Betances being the other one, they were all shut down for the day. They had all pitched each of the last 2 days. So after Nathan Eovaldi pitched very well, Chad Green got a 7-out save for the Yankees to preserve that victory.
Giants just haven't looked the same since the break. They're so hot going into it.
Waiting to get healthy. There's a strike, 3-1. Rosenthal gave up a single and a double, but no runs across in his first inning of work, and trying to work his way back up the ladder in the bullpen after losing his closer's job, and that's been one of the problems for him right there. He walks Grandal. MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, delivers everything you have come to expect and more. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. Includes a free subscription to At Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. The batter now, Toles. We told you a little bit about his story. Originally drafted by Tampa Bay. And from his own words, it sounds like there were some issues between him and the Rays, and he felt a change of scenery would be best, and he actually did not play at all in 2015. Missed some time in 14 due to personal issues. Didn't play at all in 2015. Andrew Friedman, who used to run the Rays, now runs the Dodgers, signed him to a minor league deal coming into this year. He started down at A-ball, went to AA, went to AAA. And with all the injuries the Dodgers have had in the outfield, he's gotten a chance to come up to the big leagues for the first time this year. And has done well. He's 0 for 3 tonight, but 9 for 26, a .346 average since he got called up to the big leagues earlier this month.
And just brings a different look here for the Dodgers. Speed that he provides, kind of the energy Dave Roberts talked about, and he said a real ability to hit the fastball.
Not a fastball there, but he swings through it. 2-2. The Dodgers have Yasiel Puig, but he's got a hamstring issue right now. Remember, they had Carl Crawford, but let him go. Andre Ethier hasn't played at all this year after breaking a bone in his leg back in spring training. Ooh. Rosenthal spikes one into the dirt.
And that's what we've seen a lot this year from Rosenthal. Obviously, the command's been off his 25th walk now in just over 33 innings, but a lot of pitches where you watch his outings where he's struggling to find it, where he just will miss that badly, spike a change up there, or really missing with his fastball, not by a little bit, but by feet at times. But again, if they can just continue to get him outings in these low leverage situations, and just hopeful that he can find that rhythm again, because look, the stuff is certainly still there and the track record is there for him to, as soon as he can find it, go back into a significant role at the back end of the pen.
But with just a week between now and the trading deadline, 8 days really.
Yeah, no, I don't think it changes anything. I think the Cardinals are always looking to upgrade. I just think at some point, man, if you could find it with him, and you go out and make a move with O and Siegrist and potentially Rosenthal getting back to where he was.
O has been
great.
Terrific for them. I mean, everything they could have hoped for and more. The all-time saves leader in Korean baseball. Spent the last 2 years in Japan, where he saved 80 games, and has moved from a prominent setup role into the closing role for the Cardinals recently, and has been great. And has 2 of the great nicknames in baseball, nicknames that he got
Yes.
long before he got here. The Final Boss and Stone Buddha are his two nicknames.
Awesome.
Never changes the expression on his face, and that's why Stone Buddha's there. And I mean, if you're the best closer, you're the final boss, right?
Absolutely.
And he's now the final boss for the Cardinals. Another walk. Every Sunday on Baseball Tonight, ESPN and Major League Baseball feature a local Little League program as part of our Sunday night coverage. Tonight, we welcome Godfrey Park Little League. Godfrey is one of Illinois' newest municipalities, located approximately 35 miles north of St. Louis. And here they are. They participate in the local Little League charter for the minor, major, and junior leagues ages 9 to 14. And we got a happy bunch of Godfrey Park Little Leaguers out here at Busch Stadium tonight.
Oh, we got some dabbing.
They're
going.
always
Yeah.
dabbing.
Yeah.
It's like the Little League mantra now.
Yeah, it is.
Dab. You get on TV.
Here's Jock Peterson. And after back-to-back walks here to open the inning, activity in the Cardinals' pen. Matt Bowman is up. And he can't find the strike zone right now. Scott Van Slyke in the on-deck circle for the Dodgers. His dad, Andy, terrific player, began his career as a member of the St. Louis Cardinals. Spent a few years here before moving on to Pittsburgh. Ball 3. And now Matt Holliday's jogging in from first to try to give Rosenthal pep talk.
And you can see the frustration even in the body language with Yadier behind the plate, because I think Yadier realizes just how valuable of a pitcher and of a piece to the back end of the bullpen that Trevor Rosenthal can be, and clearly just struggling mightily right now in this season.
And he has walked the bases loaded. Van Slyke announced in as a pinch hitter. And Mike Matheny looks like he's going to make a double switch.
It could be the end of the night, possibly for Yadier, too. I saw Matheny motion to Yadier before, like, I might take you out in this spot. We'll see.
So Van Slyke will have to wait. Mike Matheny explaining the changes to Greg Gibson, the home plate umpire. And now makes his way to the mound. Bowman's on his way in, and yeah, it looks like going to be the catcher Rosario coming in as well. Stay up to the moment at any moment with Game Day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com and Bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet. So it is indeed a double switch. Molina is out. Rosenthal is out. Alberto Rosario, who was catching Bowman down in the bullpen and then jogged in with him from the bullpen of the game, he will go into the 9 spot, and the new pitcher is Matt Bowman. Inherits a bases loaded, nobody out situation facing Scott Van Slyke. Ground ball to third, coming home for 1. Rosario down to first for 2. That's some efficiency right there from Matt Bowman.
Well, Bowman's had a pretty nice year in that Cardinal bullpen. Kind of that 2-seam fastball. Gets exactly what he's looking for against the right-handed hitting Van Slyke. He just lets that 2-seamer work. Van Slyke pounds it in the ground. Good footwork there by Jerko to get the lead runner, and then Rosario does a good job of making sure he secures the catch, but then clearing to create a nice lane to make it an easy double play to first.
Guy used to getting ground balls, and he gets a big one there for a double play. He's a Rule 5 pick out of the Mets organization. So the Cardinals have to carry him all season long or offer him back to the Mets. Chase Utley, 1 for 4, singled and scored back in the first when the Dodgers scored 6 times. Molina and Rosenthal trying to work together to figure out what's wrong. Saved more games than any other National League closer, any other National League reliever the last 2 years, Rosenthal, and now he's working essentially in a mop-up role trying to rediscover his command. The 2-0. There for a strike, 2-1.
Bowman got a little Tim Lincecum in his setup and his delivery. Not quite as, I guess, doesn't angle his neck as much or as quirky as Lincecum, but definitely has a little bit of that look right there when he starts into his delivery.
Down the left field line and a foul. Lincecum got roughed up today by the Astros. He got Jose Altuve today.
Yeah, who hasn't?
Yep. 2 home runs, 6 RBIs for Altuve today. He's hitting 360.
360.
Yeah. And
with pop, with 25 stolen bases.
Outstanding second baseman.
For a hot team, a dangerous team.
Even Danny Murphy are gonna battle it out for the best average in baseball.
Well, Murphy went 3 for 3 today with a couple of doubles. He's hitting 355.
Yeah, exactly. Crazy fun to watch those two.
A little bit inside.
Here's the number, guys. Altuve right now on a pace for 124 runs, 230 hits, 76 extra base hits, 99 RBI, and 73 walks, an OPS of 1,003.
And the walks, along with the power this year, is where he's gone to another level even. He's been a great player for the last few years, but now the patience and the power element.
And another walk to reload the bases. Well, I don't know if he's the front runner for American League MVP with a couple of months left in the season, but he is certainly deep in the conversation. You know, David Ortiz in a DH doesn't win often, but he's having a monster year. Josh Donaldson, who won it last year, is having as good, if not maybe slightly better, a season this year.
Same with Trout.
Yeah, Trout's having a great year.
I like Manny Machado.
Manny Machado, sure. That's a lot of good candidates. You know, Mookie Betts has had a fantastic year for the Red Sox as well. There's Corey Seager.
Wins above replacement leaders in the American League right now. Trout, 5.8, tied with Josh Donaldson, and Altuve running third.
Well, Trout in the last 4 years has won it once and finished second 3 times. Obviously, the fact that his team is not a contender, that doesn't help his case. The other guys we mentioned are all playing for contending teams.
I think Donaldson sometimes gets overshadowed, and we were talking about it by Encarnacion and the power that he's been able to have. But Donaldson's average has been up, and he's still hitting for power, on base percentage, his defense.
Yep, hitting about 400 over the last 6 weeks.
And that's a team. Look out. They are hot.
Ground ball down to first. And that's the inning. 7th inning stretch. 9-3 Dodgers. As the weather, as Adrian Gonzalez hit a grand slam. Mike Myers making his major league debut. Howie Kendrick with a home run off Myers, who lasted just an inning and a third. Scott Kazmir got through 5, throwing 96 pitches, gave up 3 runs. It was 9-3 Dodgers after 2. It's still 9-3 Dodgers here in the bottom of the 7th. Dodgers looking to take 2 out of 3 and move within 3 games of the Giants for top spot in the National League West. Second home run in as many nights for Gonzalez. Howie Kendrick now with a 16-game hitting streak, the longest active streak in baseball. Tommy Pham has homered tonight, accounting for 2 of the 3 Cardinal runs, and he will face a new Dodger pitcher. Guy having a great year, left-hander Adam Liberatore.
You know, one of those guys that's kind of come out of nowhere and emerged. Look at that. 55 earned run average, whip below 1, and in a great stretch right now. Fastball typically low 90s, slider and a change.
He has only allowed a run, and it was 2 runs, in 1 appearance this year. It was back in May. He has not given up a run since May. You know, the Dodgers have an opportunity here. They've got off days tomorrow, Thursday, and next Monday, so they can get some rest. Nobody should be too overworked. And the next 3 teams they play are Tampa Bay, Arizona, and Colorado. 3 teams who are sub-500 teams. And you can't assume anything, but they got a nice little stretch here over the next week and a half. Got some pretty good momentum going. A win tonight would make them 15-8 in their last 23. All of a sudden, the National League West a lot more interesting than it looked like just about 10 days ago. Buster, what do you got?
Yeah, when you look at the second half schedule, you just mentioned it, Dan. The Dodgers came out of the All-Star break with only 27 games left. The rest of the way with teams with records over 500. That was the fewest among all contenders, American League, National League.
So it could be a heck of a race down the stretch in the National League West, and obviously in the 2 wild card format that we've had in recent years, you want to do everything you can to win that division and avoid that 1-game wild card game, because you could run up against a hot pitcher, as the Pirates have a couple of times in recent years, and you could be a great team and you could be done. And a high strike call to ring up Pham.
Well, this is just a missed call. This is a fastball. You can see Mike Matheny very upset with this call. This is a fastball that's definitely does not catch the top of the strike zone. You see Grandal kind of frame it, but that's.
And that's when you reward yourself as a hitter. And you saw Pham want to pull the trigger and just does a nice job of laying off a pitch that's out of the zone.
Now Wong. Liberatore up to 94 on that fastball, and it's 0-1.
And what makes you really upset as a hitter is, you know, it's not like it's a 1-2 count, a 2-2 count. You just work the walk off a very hot pitcher and to start the inning. So, you know, if something's crazy's to happen, you know, leading off the inning, that's a grinding at bat that you want to do something to try and give your team an opportunity to pull off a miraculous victory.
Chopper to the right side, tricky play, going to be a base hit for Wong. Scooted under everybody's glove out into shallow right. Wong's hit the ball to the right side 3 times tonight, twice out on a close play at first, and that time he reaches.
Yeah, and here just Adrian Gonzalez kind of realized this ball was in no man's land and hit too softly to really have a legitimate chance. It looked like he was maybe even going to just try and swipe it and flip it to the first base, because he knows Wong's getting down the line pretty well.
And Wong and Dana DeMuth just can't stay out of each other's way tonight. Dana's just running wherever he can get to. So Wong aboard with an infield hit with 1 out here in the bottom of the 7th. And here is Alberto Rosario, the backup catcher who came on an inning ago in the double switch. Rosario made his major league debut just a couple of weeks ago on the 9th of July. Played over 700 games in the minors before getting his first taste of the major leagues. Aaron, you must have played with some guys, I don't want to say career minor leaguers, but guys who would have been in the minor leagues for years and years, and then they get called up in their late 20s, maybe even their early 30s. And it's got to be a different feel for them than the wide-eyed 22-year-old when he comes up for the first time.
Yeah, and I always tried to kind of soak those guys in and how they felt that first day or first couple of days, especially you know, like you said, that guy that has been in the minor leagues and paid his dues for so long, and then and usually they're really good AAA players for a number of years, and then all of a sudden they get that opportunity. I used to always try and just watch those guys kind of drink it in, soak it in, and get that much deserved opportunity.
Jeremy Hazelbaker's another one of those guys. Spent a long time in the minor leagues. Remember Jim Morris? Remember the lefty reliever with Tampa?
Yes, of course. The movie.
Made a movie about him, right?
Yeah.
He was 35 when he got to the majors for the first time. 3-1 the count on Rosario. 9-3 Dodgers. Cardinals batting here in the bottom of the 7th inning. Joe Blanton, described by Dave Roberts before the game as the glue of the Dodger bullpen. The guy who's really had a kind of a nice second stage of his career, as you will.
Yeah, and the guy who's, I think, surprised him the most down there, just how dynamic of a pitcher he's been, and really worn a lot of hats down there. You talked about the glue, kind of the guy everyone looks to because he's been around a long time, obviously a starter, now kind of reinventing himself as a reliever, but you know, and a great guy to have down there. He's always telling Doc, whatever you need me for. You need me for a tough righty-lefty here in the 8th. You need me in the 5th to put out a fire. You need a couple innings. I'll be that guy, and he's been a real nice reliever for them.
Ball 4. More baseball action coming your way tomorrow night. It'll be the Detroit Tigers taking on the hot Boston Red Sox. 7 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN. The Red Sox actually splitting a 4-game weekend series with Minnesota. Before that, playing very well. And they're trying to run down Baltimore in the American League East. And the Cubs and the White Sox twice. Southside Tuesday night, Northside Wednesday night. And we'll be at Wrigley for Sunday Night Baseball as the Cubs host the Seattle Mariners 1 week from tonight. And pretty good chance, as we always like to look ahead and see who the pitchers will be the next week. It could be King Felix. The Mariners have a couple of off days, and it looks like they've been going, or currently going, with a 4-man rotation.
And a possibility of Kyle Hendricks.
Yep.
Yeah, it'll be a good matchup. That was welcome news when we walked into our meeting when Peter Pasquarelli came in and said, hey, maybe King Felix next week. Always like those good matchups. And if it is Hendricks, he's been outstanding.
Talk about it underrated, under the radar when you got Arrieta, Lester, Lackey, so much attention to those three, but Hendricks has been the one consistent throughout the entire season.
Yeah, the top 3 guys have all hit a couple of speed bumps recently. But Cubs still with a 7-game lead, and very well could it be 7.5 after the conclusion of this game with the Cardinals for top spot in the NL Central. 0-1 the count on Randal Grichuk with 2 on and 1 out.
And if reports are become true, could have some new back end firepower, that bullpen.
I'd like to see 105.
Mariners don't want to see 105, but again, reports are that the Cubs may be closing in on a deal for Aroldis Chapman. Some Mariner fans here in St. Louis. Seattle with Robinson Cano, Nelson Cruz, Kyle Seager all having big years.
You know, all that World Series talk with the Cubs. I don't know if it can get any hotter than it's been throughout the first half of the year and now into the second half, but you bring Chapman into the mix, might get really ramped up on the north side.
You're not adding Aroldis Chapman if you're trying to make the playoffs.
Exactly.
Pop back foul out of play. The count now 2-2. Cubs have been the front runners ever since they started the year 25-6. That means, though, if you look at it, they're 34-32 since then. That's a 66-game stretch, basically a 500 team, but they've still got a 7-game cushion on St. Louis. The Pirates won today. They beat the Phillies 5-4. Adam Frazier hit his first major league home run. So the Pirates, realistically, well, the Pirates are where the Pirates seem to always have been in recent years, and that's in the wild card hunt. They are 2 games back of the Marlins for the second wild card spot of the National League. The Dodgers are in the first spot, the Marlins second, and then the Mets, Cardinals, and Pirates are all right there.
How about a Dodger Marlins wild card game, though? Don Mattingly, his old club.
Well, and if Kershaw were to get healthy, maybe a Kershaw Jose Fernandez
Wow.
matchup. Take the under. Well, Marlins man would take that. We see him a lot on Sunday nights. Told he was at Yankee Stadium yesterday. It's good to be Marlins man. Ball 4, the bases are loaded, and all of a sudden this one's getting a little more interesting.
And you think about Pham, who led off this inning with what should have been a walk. A high strike called to lead off the inning, but a couple more walks now, an infield hit.
And Dave Roberts is on his way to the mound. Bases are loaded, 9-3. Piscotty coming up, Blanton coming in. New limited edition triple double crunch wrap, and in part by Ford, we go further so you can. And State Farm. Talk to an agent today at 800 State Farm. Well, it's still 9-3, but the Cardinals are a hit away from making this one a lot more interesting. The bases are loaded with one out, and Dave Roberts has had to go bring Joe Blanton into the game.
See that outstanding season he's having. That whip down at .81, outstanding strikeout to walk ratio. Still a 4-pitch mix, fastball, slider, curveball, and change, but the slider has been a dynamic pitch for him out of that bullpen, a wipeout pitch, and a big reason he's been so effective as a reliever.
So Liberatore's scoreless streak is definitely in jeopardy here with the bases loaded, one out. We showed you Piscotty going to break. He's on deck now. Diaz, who is the current hitter, was the on-deck hitter, then had gone back into the dugout. It disappeared for a moment, but it is Aledmys Diaz, the batter, 0 for 3 tonight. And hitting .315 on the season. As you can see, has done a terrific job with the bases loaded this year. Those who have braved the temperature, the 100-degree game time temperature, and the fact that the Cardinals were down 9-1 in the second inning, they're perking up right now. On Build-A-Bear night. There's a strike, 2-1. Diaz kind of jackknifing away from it as if it were inside, but it was right close to the edge.
Yeah, the right call here, and this is a great job by Diaz, who's looking out over the plate and wants to get a pitch out over the plate. This is something that probably ties him up on a 2-0 count. Good job of laying off.
Fly ball to right field, room for Tolles. He will make the catch, tagging at third, and coming in to score on the play is Juan Rosario. Will take third on the play, and it's 9-4. So now the batter is Stephen Piscotty, the number 3 hitter for the Cardinals, 1 for 3 tonight, and a rising star in baseball, hitting for average, hitting for power, and recently moved up to the 3 spot in the Cardinals lineup.
You know, Jess talked about and compared the 2 swings of Corey Seager and Stephen Piscotty, but they seem very similar personality-wise. They're young players. Yeah, they're rookies. Piscotty, not a rookie anymore, but there's just a veteran presence about. They seem like they've been around for 8 or 10 years, and I say that in a very good way. Just very mature approaches, and obviously outstanding players.
You're poised a lot about both of them.
It's maturity, not just in their approaches as players, but just in the way that they talk about the game, understand the game. They're very even-keeled. You're not going to see them emotionally get high or low, which you do usually see with younger players.
On the appeal, he didn't go. 1 ball and 1 strike. Well, it's 6-0 in the first and 9-1 in the second. If you're Dave Roberts, you're thinking maybe I don't have to use my Liberators and my Blantons tonight, but he has had to. 9-4 here, and still a ways to go. Bottom of the 7th. Chase there, 1-2. Good slider.
Yeah, that's the pitch that's been so effective for him. He starts that ball on the outer half at 87 miles an hour. Not much off his fastball at all. Late, tight, downward, and a little bit side-to-side break. And a good hitter way out in front.
Upstairs with a fastball. $41,423 the attendance tonight, again because of the heat and the big deficit. Not everybody has stayed, but the ones who have, they're the noisy bunch. Full count. By the way, with the run scoring, Wong coming in, that officially snaps the scoreless streak that Liberatore had. Going back to May. 28 straight appearances without allowing a run. That ends tonight. Runner goes from first. That is a fair ball down the left field line. 1 run is home. Grichuk on his way home. He will score on a 2-run double by Piscotty, and it's 9-6.
You mentioned the maturity. You think about the pitch before this hit. It was a slider away, a swing and miss with 2 strikes. He lays off of it and takes this fastball. And this is a 2-strike swing. He's not trying to take this ball out of the park. He's trying to pass the bat, continue this inning, and he takes this fastball and just drives it down the line. A simple swing, especially after a big take with 2 strikes the pitch before.
So second hit of the night for Piscotty. RBIs number 57 and 58 on the season. And all of a sudden it's just a 3-run game as Matt Holliday comes to the plate.
Holliday just missing, and this is the pitch you want. 91, pretty center cut. On time, everything perfect, just slightly underneath it, which is what you want to be, especially Matt Holliday with the swing that he wants in this count.
Down the right field line, but a foul, and it's 0-2 on Holliday. Matt Matt Holliday has had some success against Joe Blanton, including a couple of home runs off him.
This is one of those games that all of a sudden, if you're Matheny and the Cardinal coaching staff and the players for that matter, you fall behind 9-1. In July, you have a fill-in starter that gets roughed up, a hot night, and your team continues to grind away. It's just a morale builder. You know, it's something that no matter what happens now, if they complete the comeback and ultimately can overtake the Dodgers, but even that the fact that they've gotten back into this game, it's one of those, you go up in the locker room and you kind of feel good about everyone.
And he strikes him out to end the inning. But it's a productive one for the Cardinals, creeping their way back into it, now down by 3. Sports Center at Night, currently airing on ESPN News between now and the end of the ballgame. Lisa Kearney and Chris Hassel will have all the baseball and International Champions Cup highlights, as well as NFL updates, as more teams have rookies reporting to training camp. Sports Center at Night, up next on ESPN, also streaming live on Watch ESPN and the ESPN app. Top 8. Dodgers 9, Cardinals 6. 3, 4, 5, Turner, Gonzalez, and Kendrick. And this part of the order has been a wrecking crew for the Dodgers tonight. Turner is 2 for 3 with a single and a double and 2 runs scored. Gonzalez is 3 for 4, including a grand slam. And Kendrick is 2 for 4 with a double and a 2-run homer.
Dan, I think the key to that is Adrian Gonzalez. I mean, Turner and Kendrick have both been hot for some time, but that's the bat, that cleanup bat, the one that's been quiet most of this season. That's the one they'd like to see continue to get going.
Home run number 9 tonight for Gonzalez.
Justin Turner, you saw in his double, his last at bat, the ability for him to really lay into that backside and watch the high leg kick. When he gets that front foot down, his legs stay back. And remember, on this double, it was a slider moving away from him. He drove it into right center field. And that's been the biggest difference. When you look at Justin Turner and his ability to be able to not just get the barrel head out, but just the timing of all that he's got going on with his body. And you see right there, the barrel, look at it lag behind. And that's something that for him, when he has his misses, it's just getting a little bit under and behind versus getting that barrel head out along with his lower half. And that nice leg kick.
Fly ball down the left field line. A long run for Grichuk, and he's there in time to make the play, 1 down. And now Adrian Gonzalez, who hit the grand slam way back in the first inning. And as mentioned, 3 for 4 on the night. Matt Bowman in his second inning of work for the Cardinals as Gonzalez hits one down the left field line, but fading foul.
There's a look at that grand slam back in the first inning. It was a slider up and out over the plate and drove it out the front door. A big blow in this game to get the Dodgers off on a good note.
Tough one for Mike Myers. He has remained in the dugout the entire game, made his major league debut tonight. The Cardinals forced to call up somebody from the minors, and it was Myers after the rainout doubleheader and a 16-inning game on Friday. A lot of family from Ohio here in attendance tonight. Not the way he had hoped or envisioned it would go. Three and one. Heard Mike Matheny talking with Buster earlier tonight, and he gave him a pep talk after he took him out of the game. Wanted to tell him what a good job he was doing down in the minors and to not let one major league outing, albeit his first major league outing, not to let that ruin the great season that he's having and the progress that he's making. And Myers also getting a chance a little bit earlier tonight to spend some time with Adam Wainwright.
Well, and this is something that's been a hallmark of St. Louis Cardinal baseball and a lot of their success. The leadership.
Bouncer to first, 2 down.
You talked about next man up. That the Cardinals probably do it as good or better than anyone. And I think a lot of it has to do with the leadership that's been passed on from generation to generation. Yadier Molina, Adam Wainwright, Matt Holliday, now Matt Carpenter, kind of the younger generation, be passed on to Piscotty. And these guys are so good at bringing young players in or bringing new players to the organization. And a good look there at an all-time great Cardinal in Wainwright, just kind of consoling and maybe offering some tips for Myers as he's probably likely back to AAA.
Certain teams feel more than others like they have an identity, like they have a culture.
Yep.
And the Cardinals definitely feel like they have a culture.
And not even when you see Adam Wainwright talking to Mike Myers, but Stephen Piscotty walks behind and he kind of glances over, and what that sets the tone for another young player. So it's not even what's happening between the two in conversation, but just the leadership that shows everyone around. This is what you do.
Kendrick grounds out. The Dodgers go in order in the top of the 8th. Going bottom 8. Cardinals coming up, down 9-6. a replica 19th century paddle wheeler. Two riverboats picture the Becky Thatcher with the Tom Sawyer right along the Mississippi River, admiring the St. Louis skyline, including, of course, the Gateway Arch itself, the gateway to the west. Well, this game's been going on a long time, and there have been a ton of foul balls, so that means they need some new ones. They're coming out by the dozen right now.
I've been up in the arch. You guys?
Did you really?
Yeah.
Never been.
How was it? Tight quarters? A
little interesting going up.
A little snug in there?
Yeah, so, you know, playing for the Reds for so long and coming here 3 times a year. We had an off day, and Adam Dunn and I said, you know what? We come here so often. We got an off day. We need to go up in that thing. So we went up there. Got a look at the Midwest from up there.
Yep. Checked it off your list.
Checked it off the list.
Ground ball in the hole at short. Strong throw by Seager to get Jerko for the first out. Now Matt Adams will come up as a pinch hitter in the pitcher's spot. Adams with a big-time moment on Friday night with a walk-off home run in the 16th inning off Bud Norris to win the game for the Cardinals. A game they tied with 2 outs in the 9th when Jerko homered and then won it in the 16th. Adams saying he hit that ball about as hard as he can hit a ball, 440 feet. Shift is on against Adams. And looking at where he hits the ball against righties, so he'll pull a lot of them, but also hits the ball kind of directly to where the shortstop is a lot. Seager holding his ground there.
So based on that information, you would expect the Dodgers to pretty much be in the exact position they are.
Those are the numbers they look at.
Yep.
Basically, when we've seen it, Booney, we've sat in manager's office where they almost like video games, take the pieces of their infield, move them over based on those type of numbers.
Great pinch hitting numbers for Adams, and this has been a trend for the Cardinals. They're hitting about 350 as a team pinch hitting with 10 pinch hit home runs, tied with the Nationals for the major league lead.
And there was a joke early on in the year when they got off to such a great start. And again, it speaks to the depth of the position player roster that they accumulated this offseason heading into the season. But there was a joke saying, man, I need a day off so I can get rolling, maybe a home run off the bench. It was getting to be a bit contagious.
Hooked foul. Avilan ready if needed in the Dodger pen. Kenley Jansen didn't think he'd pitch in this game about 2.5 hours ago.
Yeah, he's lacing up his spikes probably right now. And a little, as we've talked about, a little different scenario, obviously, for the Dodgers than the Cardinals. The Dodgers with the off day Monday, another off day on Thursday. So, you know, they've got some built-in off days that will certainly help their pen, so they can use their pen a little differently. Much of the game tonight, Mike Matheny just trying to manipulate and try and save some of that bullpen as they're in a long stretch of games.
High fly ball and well hit deep left center. Peterson will make the catch.
What I like about this catch for Peterson is not only the speed, the angle, all the things you look for in a ball hit this deep, but his awareness. He doesn't once look for the wall. He knows where it's at until after he catches it. So he understands where and when to jump, timing it perfectly. That is so hard to do. Go full speed knowing something's coming. This isn't your home park, but he had that ability to not only get to the ball, but understand where he was at when he caught it.
So 2 down now in the bottom of the 8th. And the batter is Tommy Pham. 1 for 3, the 1-2 run homer back in the 2nd. Kazmir for 5. Baez worked an inning. Liberatore wound up getting charged with 3 runs in the 7th inning. 2 of them were inherited runs that scored after Piscotty doubled in a couple off Blanton. Now Blanton trying to work through the 8th. And it looks like he will. The Cardinals go in order. 8 completed. Bush, and the Dodgers leading 9-6. From first base to left field, that pushes Randal Grichuk from left field to center field. Mike Matheny obviously wanted to keep Matt Adams in the game, so he's in the game at first base. Tommy Pham has come out of the game. And the new pitcher is Sung-Hwan Oh, the current closer for the Cardinals. Talked about him a little bit earlier. The all-time saves leader in Korea. Spent the last 2 years in Japan. Saved 80 games in 2 seasons there. And look at these numbers. 67 strikeouts to just 13 walks for O. Mike Matheny told us he has picked up some Korean phrases that he uses. He asked the interpreter for a new phrase every day in spring training so he could try to learn some Korean. He said he hasn't managed to retain all of that, but he does have some of them, and he greets O with some, you know, how you doing, hello phrases, and talks to him a little bit in Korean, and that O is very intent on learning as much English as he can. And the communication's obviously good enough. This guy's been around the block a time or two. A great closer in both Korea and Japan. And really has not appeared to have any kind of an adjustment period at all coming to the United States.
Well, I think one thing Mike Matheny's been so impressed with is just his aptitude, his ability to kind of learn the league on the fly, pay attention. Talked about how he's really bounced back each and every day, always wants the ball, and he's been one of the really good relievers in the National League first 4 months or so of the season.
34 years of age. Signed a 1-year deal with an option for next year. He's a bargain right now. And that one gets a piece of Grandal.
Well, that looked like the slider right there. No fastball you've seen low 90s, up to 94, 95 at times. Real good life in the zone. Slider and a split. Ball just keeps boring in on that front foot. As
just the second hit batter by O this year in 49 1/3 innings. So the leadoff man on for the Dodgers in the top of the 9th, and the batter now is Tolles, 0 for 3 with a walk. Meanwhile, in the Dodger bullpen, with a 3-run lead and a potential save situation coming in the bottom of the 9th, their closer, Kenley Jansen, is up. The Dodgers' all-time saves leader. Passed Eric Gagne earlier this season.
Both Jansen and O, who have been incredibly stingy this year, obviously great relievers, but incredibly stingy with the long ball. Coming into this series, each had only given up 1 on the entire season. Both have given up consequential home runs in this series.
Yep, O gave up 1 to Turner on Friday night in the top of the 9th inning, and then Jansen gave 1 up to Jerko in the bottom half of the 9th. Oh, 2. Ball in, says Greg Gibson. Turner on a tear, having another good night tonight. Dodgers looking to get out of here with 2 wins in 3 games. Move within 3 of the Giants. Head back home for a week against the Rays and the Diamondbacks. Swing and a miss. 1 down. Meanwhile, for the Cardinals, who don't have the benefit of an off day tomorrow, their bullpen has pitched 20 innings this weekend. Now, a lot of that had to do with a 16-inning game Friday, and they won that game, so it worked out for them that night. But that's a lot of innings and will necessitate at least 1 roster move, you would think, between tonight and tomorrow night. Not as many bodies down there as there were at the beginning of the game. Jock Peterson, the batter. A swing and a miss, 1-1.
Peterson's a guy I'm surprised the Cardinals don't shift on more. In fact, a couple hits he's had tonight have been just pulling outside pitches. Excuse me, pulled 1 outside pitch and snuck it through a couple of the infielders. And he's a guy almost 70% of the time his ground balls will be to the right side of that infield.
Popped up shallow left, racing out Diaz, the shortstop, to make the sliding catch.
Well, playing in double play depth allows Diaz to make this play. Gets a nice break on this ball. Realizes that Holiday's probably not going to have much of an opportunity, so we can go hard at this all the way. Goes into a little slide to make it easier, just in case there's any ideas of a tag up from first. Good first step on that ball by Diaz.
And now Chris Taylor is going to bat in the pitcher spot. Former Seattle Mariner, made his Dodger debut on June the 27th this season. Hit a grand slam against the Diamondbacks 9 days ago. He's played third, short, and second since coming to the Dodgers. Chases down and away, 0-1. Jansen readying himself for an outing in the bottom of the ninth. Dodgers 3 outs away from winning the series. Tigers and Red Sox tomorrow night here on ESPN. Cubs and White Sox both Tuesday night and Wednesday night on ESPN. And then we'll have the Mariners and the Cubs 1 week from tonight. Blew the fastball by him, 1-2. Checking maybe to see who he will face in the bottom of the ninth. Scheduled up Colton Wong, Alberto Rosario, and Randall Grichuk. Eight, 9, and 1 the way the Cardinal lineup is set up right now after the double switch earlier. Remember, Yadier Molina is not in the game anymore. It was 9-1. It was 9-3 for a long time. It's 9-6 now. There has been quite a number of foul balls hit in this game.
Well, as we saw the guy filling up the bucket with some extra ones, result of some of those foul balls. I think now, though, Taylor's in swing mode. Probably set up now for that slider after coming in with it.
And missing in, the count is full. So Grandal will get a running start from first. Adams is still going to play near the bag, not behind the runner. Oh, the set. There goes the runner, and the pitch swung on and hit in the air down the right field line, and this too will find its way back into the seats.
Another foul ball away from another dozen having to go back in the bucket.
Those things ain't cheap, you know.
No.
But they're making fans happy. A lot of souvenirs tonight.
Bucket's getting a little empty.
3-2 again. Ball 4, first and second for Chase Utley.
Well, after falling behind there, that's a really nice at bat from Taylor off one of the really good relievers in the National League. Lays off some difficult pitches, spoil, and then finally that 3-2 able to lay off the slider away.
So with 2 men on, back to the top of the order for Utley, who got it all started tonight with a base hit back in the first inning, scored on the Gonzalez grand slam. Overall, he's 1 for 4 with a walk.
You're getting into interesting territory now. Again, Cardinals no off day tomorrow. You've got your closer out there about to throw his 25th pitch.
Yeah.
How much further can you go to where you wouldn't have him available in tomorrow night's ball game? This probably his last hitter. And he's talking to Hazelbaker there, right there, as a possible double switch scenario, or just what is going on.
Kevin Segrist up in the pen. Changeup swung on and missed. 0-2. Who blinks first? Utley doesn't want to set up till O does.
I mean, that's a great look right
Yeah.
there. Two astute baseball players just kind of staring each other down. All right, what are you thinking here? What's your, almost like a poker face between the two of them. You going back to that split, or what do you got?
A fly ball to right field, deep but playable to end the inning. To the bottom of the ninth, the Cardinals have made it interesting, but they're down 3 with Kenley Jansen getting ready to come in for the Dodgers. Going to the bottom of the ninth inning with Wong, Rosario, and Grichuk scheduled against a pretty tough customer on the mound for the Dodgers. Big right-hander Kenley Jansen, who has great numbers. He has blown 5 saves, Aaron, this year, but if you look at the overall numbers, some of them are really impressive.
Yeah, it's been another dominating campaign for Jansen. That .70 whip. Look at the strikeout to walk ratio, 54-7 in just 42 2/3 innings. And there's not a lot of secrets to what he's doing. It's fastball with that good natural cut on it. He'll occasionally take a little off and turn it into more of a slider, but it's low mid-90s fastball with that outstanding cut action to it.
Rosario on deck. Wong will begin the inning. 8-9-1. Wong, Rosario, and Grichuk. 9-6 Dodgers. We're up 6-0 before the Cardinals ever came to the plate tonight. Up 9-1 in the second. Up 9-3 right through the middle innings. Cardinals got 3 in the 7th to make it 9-6. That's the score here going bottom 9. Cardinals at Citi Field to take on the Mets. 3-game series tomorrow night. Dodgers off, and will host the Rays beginning Tuesday. Slight play to pull against Wong. Outfielder slightly the other way. Big gap in right center. Jansen, a free agent at the end of the season, has had a great run with the Dodgers. Dodger fan, I think in a Corey Seager t-shirt up there in the second deck to our left, just made the catch. He did not go.
Here's a look from the side of that. And decide for yourself. Did he go? That leg kick. Ooh, real close. I think maybe just barely holding up.
Barely.
Barely.
As close as you can get.
Yep.
Ground ball scooped up by Turner. One down. Next game on ESPN tomorrow night, the Detroit Tigers and the Boston Red Sox. Red Sox right now leading the American League wild card race. The Tigers are 4 games out of the second spot in the AL wild card race. SportsCenter is next here on ESPN. Here is Rosario, came on in the double switch a couple of innings ago when it was 9-3, and Mike Matheny made a move and lifted Yadier Molina from the game. Tricky thing with Molina, he never wants to come out. You never really want to take him out, but you want to get him some rest every now and again because he has caught more innings than any other catcher in baseball this year. It was 100 degrees at game time. You want to get him a little rest if you can. Then they score 3 and kind of get back into it.
Yeah, it was definitely a smart move to get him out of there. And you could see the communication between Matheny when it happened. I'm sure he said, hey, if we do make a move this inning and have to go to the pen, I'm thinking about it. But before he came out, he looked at Yadi and kind of gave him a nod like, you want to do this? Probably the wise decision.
Strike at the knees. A win tonight for the Dodgers brings them within 3 games of the Giants for top spot in the National League West, and they've still got 9 games left with the Giants, including 3 in San Francisco to wrap up the regular season.
How much fun are those games going to be going down the stretch? I mean, would it really be a September heading into October without the Giants and the Dodgers down to a few games going head to head? Of course, the Giants hope to get a lot healthier between now and then.
So do the Dodgers.
And what happens the next 8 days as well for between now and the trade deadline?
Buster won't get much sleep in the next week.
I don't know if Buster ever gets much sleep.
Yeah, sleep in the winter.
He's working all the time.
Low full count. Grichuk waiting on deck. After him, if the Cardinals can keep the line moving, it's Diaz, then Piscotty, then Holiday. Slice down the right field line, no play for Tolles.
That's probably the biggest thing I've noticed in this game for all pitchers tonight, and I'm sure the heat has a lot to do with it because we've seen a lot of misses on balls slipping out of the hand up in the zone, but the inability of the put-away pitch. A lot of foul balls, which you mentioned earlier. That's why they're going through so many, but Jansen was ahead in the count. Credit to the hitters for working the count, but maybe he'll get the strikeout here, but there's been a lot with 2 strikes, just not the big swing and miss.
Three-2 again. Got him. 2 down.
And I like the location of where Jansen goes, and he's been painting all 4 corners. He went a lot lower in the zone earlier against Rosario, and then he comes back up. He's at the hands A lot of those foul balls were away, low in the zone, changes the eye level. Missing the bat. You heard me.
So the Cardinals down to their final out. It'll be Randal Grichuk, 1 for 3 with a walk. Grichuk spending some time down in the minors, was really struggling earlier in the season, hitting .302 since he got back to the majors about 3 weeks ago. Jammed there and he fouls it back, and now it's 0-2. Jansen looking for his 29th save of the season, and if he gets it, Scott Kazmir would pick up win number 9. Adrian Gonzalez, Justin Turner, Howie Kendrick carrying a lot of the load offensively for the Dodgers tonight, who again have played well since Clayton Kershaw was sidelined. A win tonight would make them 15-8 since the last time he pitched, with no timetable for his return. They're swinging the bats better. The bullpen has been good. Brandon McCarthy's come into the rotation, has made 4 very nice starts for them. Kazmir's pitching better. And that's your ball game. The Dodgers take 2 out of 3 from the Cardinals. Jansen with his 29th save of the season. They score early and often, and it holds up for a victory tonight on a steamy night here in St. Louis. Again, the final score, the Dodgers 9 and the Cardinals 6. Adrian Gonzalez with a big grand slam. The Cardinals now 7.5 back of the Cubs. The Dodgers have moved within 3 games of the Giants in the NL West. For Jessica Mendoza, Aaron Boone, Buster Olney, and our entire ESPN Sunday night crew, I'm Dan Schulman saying so long from Busch Stadium. Sports Center with Lisa Kearney and Chris Hassels coming up next.